Grab the gavel. Hello, everyone.
This is the meeting of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force Compliance and Amendments Committee for February 16, 2016. The time is
4:06.
4:06 p.m. On the call of the roll, Member Haynes. Haynes absent. Member Washburn.
Present.
Washburn present. Chair Eldon.
Present.
Eldon present. We have a quorum. I would like to note that Member Pelpel is sitting as a non-voting member at this time. Regarding agenda changes, I did receive an email regarding item number 2. The representative from the District Attorney's Office is on his way and will be here shortly. Would you like to skip over that and move to item number 3?
Yes.
Public comment on this?
He will be here shortly.
Michael Petralis, my question is, are you going to take public comment on changing the agenda?
We don't. We don't normally.
I think you should take it.
You had sent us an email saying you weren't going to be present for this one anyway. I'm happy to talk about it more.
Right, but my question is, are you going to take public comment on changing the agenda?
No.
Item number 3, file number 15120. Hearing on the status of the order of determination, complaint filed by Anonymous against the San Francisco Municipal Transportation Agency for violating Administrative Code Section 67.21 and 67.25, failure to respond to immediate disclosure request in a timely and/or complete manner. The task force requested the SFMTA perform an expanded search to include all documents and records regarding proposed and implemented changes to Muni 33 Stanton-Ashbury bus routing for the period of January 1st, 2014 through August 7, 2015. I have received a response from the SFMTA that is in your packet today. Would you like to call on either the complainant or the respondent?
Yes, could we hear from the complainant if they're here?
You're allowed 3 minutes for your comment.
2?
3.
Excuse me, I didn't hear what you said. What did the MTA tell you?
They did provide an email, which you did receive a copy of their response to the expanded search.
But they're not going to be here?
I believe they
They're
are
here?
here today.
Oh, good. I thank you for bringing this matter to this committee. I think it was most productive, although not perfect. I found they did send me a disk with numerous files, one of which I had problems with, and I hope they can help with that file. I have a paper printout of the page that gave me a problem. There were, as I read this, 2 files that were underlined in a URL but not online manner, if I can read this correctly, that I could not open. In other words, I would have expected the files to be on the disk, since all the others were. There were at least 20, possibly 40, all of which were there, except inside of one of them. And I have the file name here, and I could give it to the MTA person if they're here, and I hope we can finish this promptly. Other than that, I might add, though, that the matter that I inquired about is still pending action by MTA. Mm-hmm. Therefore, I may well ask for documents since the end date. You know, the original was ending August 7, 2015. I may come back with another one to bring us up to date. But other than that, I really appreciate very much the additional documents provided, and I would like to get a response from MTA about the one or two on the single page that I could not open. Thank you.
You hear from MTA?
All right, can we hear from the MTA?
I'll take the document back, and we'll do a search for the documents that he's missing, and then we'll provide them to him.
May I have your name for the record?
I'm sorry, Lita Rosier.
Question?
Any other?
All right. All right. Do you have anything?
I don't have anything, no.
Briefly?
Briefly.
Greetings.
Hi.
So a couple of quick things. The emails that were in our packet, those were interesting and revealing. I hope Mr. Pasquarello appreciated those. There was at least one document on page 33 of the packet that had a from line with information, not there. So I'm not sure if that was a redacted name or something. But I was kind of interested in the source of that particular email.
Is this the issue that the complainant has brought up?
This was in
Okay.
the part of the documents provided by MTA. If it was an email address, I'm certainly not interested in the email address, but the source of this particular video that was referred to, I was interested in. And I guess my question, other than if you could assist Mr. Pasquarello with the two items that he couldn't get, I just wanted to be sure that the electronic documents that were referred to in the emails, the spreadsheets and the docs and the PDFs and the folders and the posters and all of that all of those were made available
Yes.
in the electronic format
Yes.
on the disk to Mr. Pasquarello. Okay. And Mr. P., you didn't have problems with any of those attachments?
At the risk of embarrassing myself, I think the items you mentioned, I don't have, and I would like to have. In other words, I'm correcting what I just told you 3 minutes ago. So the video, that wasn't on the disk, as far as I know, and also there was a from missing.
Yeah.
Sorry, I hadn't looked at my notes. There was an item. Chama Hernandez _ uppercase QA.pdf. It was not clear who was the author of that PDF. In other words, the source. And also the video. I do remember now, you're reminding me there was a video that wasn't on the disk. So I will correct what I just said. I'm sorry. So does that answer what you?
Yeah. I mean, I think as I understood it, your original intent was to get everything related to the 33 changes. The initial response didn't yield that. The expanded search did. So to the extent that there are documents included here, MTA should endeavor to get them to you so that you can actually access them. And yes, as you indicated, you might do a subsequent request because this item apparently is still working, and there's a lot of documents in here that you'll want to review carefully, I believe.
Well, I've looked at nearly all of them. So we have 4 now that are missing. There are 2 in the paper printout that I gave this woman, and then the 2 you mentioned, the video and the check. Can you read that? Chama Hernandez _ QA.pdf. Thank you, Mr. Pilpel, for reminding me.
Other than those requests to MTA, it appears to me that they have substantially complied with the order and that the committee could probably discharge the matter.
Well, I think we still need to hear any clarifications or rebuttals from either side about this.
No, I mean, we'll look at the documents and the video that he's asking for and provide them to him.
Appreciate it.
Sure.
Do you, I mean, I don't want to try to resolve this if it's unresolved in any way.
Well, there are these four.
So do you feel with
we
that?
could keep it open and pending my receipt of that. I don't know if that means we need to come back here, but I could let you know. You want to set a time limit on it?
Well,
If it doesn't come, I'll let you know.
We could conclude the matter now, but in that case, would you then, Victor, this is a question for you, would we then open up a new ticket if that didn't come up?
We can conclude the matter at this time, and the complainant may file a new complaint if the additional documents are not provided.
Okay, about this existing one as well as whatever you're looking for.
If the four don't come, I'll file another complaint. Could you give me a time frame, like a deadline?
Well, there really is no deadline for you to file an additional complaint. I believe the proposal is that the task force will find that the SFMTA has complied with the order of determination, provided the documents with the exception of the video and...
And the two documents that he mentions in
Yes.
this document.
Well, then there's one additional one, so a total of four.
Yes.
Total of four.
Two here.
And we can conclude
two
the
Mr.
matter.
Pilpa.
If there is additional complaints, the complainant can file again.
I would just ask that the MTA attempt to provide these materials within 5 business days, which
Appreciate
is
it.
what we would specify if this were an order
Fair
of
enough.
determination.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would just suggest, because it seems like they're pretty close, that the committee conclude the matter, but
Yeah.
allow Mr. Pasquarello, if there's a need, to simply reopen rather than refile. So,
Yes.
with that understanding.
All right. Do we have a motion then? Is that required?
So move
Thank you.
to conclude the matter.
Yeah.
Mr. Eldon, Chair Eldon will be the second, I assume.
Yes, I second the motion.
Public comment.
Is there any public comment on the matter?
There being no public comment on the motion to find that the SFMTA has complied with the order of determination with certain conditions. On that motion, Haynes absent. Washburn.
Aye.
Washburn, aye. Chair Eldon.
Aye.
Eldon, aye. The motion passes. Next on the agenda is item number 2, file number 15063, hearing on the status of the order of determination, complaint filed by Michael Trellis against District Attorney George Gascon and the Office of the District Attorney for violating Administrative Code Section 67.25A and 67.29-5 by failing to respond to immediate disclosure requests in a timely and/or complete manner, and failing to maintain a daily calendar wherein is recorded the time and place of each meeting or event attended. I will leave the summary to Member Pelpel on this matter. He is knowledgeable of this matter.
All right.
So, welcome back, Mr. Bastian. We've discussed this matter a number of times at this committee. I believe the last request, which is in the minutes, was for your office to memorialize the changes that you've made and provide examples. I see a memo in here somewhere, like page 2 of the packet, that explains the changes. I didn't see an example. I think we saw an example that Mr. Petrellis provided. For what it's worth, I think that the changes are okay. I wouldn't say that they're, huge. I do note that at the same time that the DA is, announcing investigations and considering public corruption and whatnot, that, his compliance with the calendar requirement seems, what's a good word? Sluggish. And I wish that, you could do more. So, it generally, I think, responds to what the committee and the task force have asked for. I'm sorry that it's not more detailed, and I'd like to hear from Mr. Petrellis about whether he's satisfied and have some further discussion. Perhaps we can finally end this today. Thanks.
All right.
So we asked you to provide us with a list of what you were going to include in the calendar, and it's a comprehensive list, but Could you give us an example for us to see? I went online to see if it's posted on your website, but I couldn't find.
Are you referring to the calendar?
Yes.
I've provided many. We've had prior examples in the past. Last time around, I believe it was either in November when we came in here last time around. You had an example at that time. Additionally, I actually was the one that reached out to Victor to move this along, to put this on calendar today. If you would like an example, I'm more than happy, the most recent example, more than happy to provide that tomorrow. Mr. Petrellis requested it just, I believe, last week, so he also has the January example. I'm more than happy to forward that email to this task force as well. So whatever is most convenient for you.
Is there anything we can see right now on the internet?
The calendar is...
Page 12 of the packet has the November calendar.
I'm looking for how this is being publicly shared right now, which is what this is about.
So if anyone asks for the calendar is available upon request, and generally, even though they're up to 72 hours to get it, we usually provide it within 24 hours, within one court day, I should say, because if it's a weekend, if someone sends a request, let's say Friday afternoon, it's unfortunately not going to be prudent for us to be able to provide it on Saturday, but we do our best to get it to the person by the next calendar day. So, and that's generally, I believe Mr. Petrellis would be probably the better person to ask as far as how long it usually takes for him to get a calendar request when he requests one. I'm sure he'll speak on that.
All right, Mr. Petrellis.
Michael Petrellis of Government Access Project. I'm fed up with months of delay and no memorializing from the district attorney about this matter. We're talking calendars. I believe that this complaint originated about a year ago. And I'm going to say it, this nincompoop from the DA's office has never showed up with something in hand. He's always talking about what they may memorialize. He can't even show up at the most recent changes in the calendar. That's what we're here about. The hypocrisy from this office has to be noted by this council. We have been through a number of hearings. The district attorney has not showed up with the changes. Finally, a simple email was sent to this body saying they've made these changes and they're not jeopardizing any investigations. It took them almost a year for that kind of simple email. Not good enough. They have to be found non-compliant with maintaining a calendar for the district attorney and turning it over. Whatever they may turn over now does not negate what they have kept from the public for years. And I want to show in the overhead screen that your own annual report shows that the district attorney has failed to respond to any referral for enforcement. No matter how we slice sunshine, whether it is the district attorney enforcing your findings or turning over public records, they are negligent.
Can we get that on the screen? I can't see anything.
Hit the right button.
There we go.
That is your most recent annual report showing that you find there is no enforcement from this agency. No matter how sunshine requests are cut with this district attorney, he is a problem. Regarding the matter before you, they have not been compliant, they have not maintained a calendar, and they did not turn over the calendar as they were supposed to, and what they turned over was empty.
Since we're partially talking about how they're improving upon past practices, and they just said that they were able to turn it around within 72 hours. Has that been your experience?
I'm not going to comment on that because my complaint is about what they did not turn over. We are here about their violation of not maintaining a calendar and not turning it over. What they may be doing now is a totally separate matter.
Excuse me. All right, so this matter was before us some time ago. We found the district attorney's office in violation of the calendar provision in the ordinance. And so they were to address this problem and come back with evidence that they had. And we asked for a specific list of what they were going to include. which is nice, but there's no example. And so I have no way of determining that this is in fact your practice.
I see.
So at this point in time, I don't know that you are fully complying with 67.
May I respond to that?
Please.
The last time I was here, you actually received the example that was, I believe, for either November or the month before that. It highlighted all of those things, and I remember being told, this is good, this is an improvement, however, please memorialize what the improvements are. So you had indicated either to put it in a memo or an email. That's exactly what I did. I come here, I get called a nincompoop, a moron, all kinds of things. That's fine. It's part of the, I get it, it's part of the job. But I'm doing everything that you're asking, and Mr. Pilpel and Ms. Washburn, both of you were here at the last calling of this case, and both of you recall that I had a November calendar for you. In fact, Mr. Petrellis had sunshined it. If you would like the most recent one from January, I'm happy to give it to you today. I can even forward you what Mr. Petrellis received just last week today. And if that will be to your suiting, that's perfectly fine.
Well, so just to go back to what you were saying, Mr. Petrellis, you wanted us to find them in violation. We found them in violation for the past instances. Now what the matter is about is whether or not they have improved upon that to the satisfaction.
If they've improved upon it, let them prove it.
Okay, and so he's
Let them
provided
show up with
one-
something in hand. Let them prove it. And now I want to address my point about I said I was not going to come. I'm here to feed two birds with one seed. I have two other matters before this body today, and that's why I'm here wasting more time with this nincompoop who is not showing up with the calendars. They have not done what the city attorney and the police chief have done, which is give me full calendars. You have never had a complaint from me against the police chief nor against the city attorney because they don't pull this BS that Alex and the district attorney pull. It is something I want you to keep in mind because if the police chief and Dennis Herrera can turn over their calendars without this kind of rigmarole over a practical year, it is saying something wrong about the DA.
Can you give him the full calendar that
Sure.
he's looking for and resolve the matter?
Sure.
And
I'll provide the
we
January.
need to be able to see a copy of that too. I personally also don't feel comfortable closing this matter without knowing that all of that is set.
I'll send the January one today. You'll
Great.
get it today.
Okay.
Mr. Young, you'll get it today.
Yes, Member Pilpel.
I think that there are, at least in my mind, at least two other outstanding issues related to this, and I'm not going to associate myself with the characterization of you. On your last email to us, you said every day there is something on the calendar. Well, that's good, but I think I'm more interested in certainly not a minute-by-minute accounting, but something like, DA holding meetings in the office with staff, and that can be actually on the same day as other things are happening. So, there are instances where, and I'm looking at the November calendar, an event outside of the office and a phone call. But other than that, the rest of the day isn't really accounted for. And I have not looked at the other official calendars that I understand Mr. Petrellis has posted, but I would assume that in most cases, most of the day is accounted for either in meetings or doing work in the office, or that there's, some basic accounting of how the public official is spending their time. That was part of the intent of this section, is not to just sort of cherry pick things that are fun to report, but sort of give, what the department head or elected official is up to, and in particular who they're meeting with, who they're being lobbied by, who they're discussing staff matters with. Understanding that you've got a somewhat unique role and that we don't want to compromise any investigations, as we've talked about it at great length, sort of listing meetings in office or meetings with, deputy district attorneys is, I think sufficient for that purpose, but isn't in here. Or perhaps you've change that practice. And then there was one other thing, and I'm losing it now. In any event, we wanted to see an example.
Yeah, I mean...
And so there you are.
I agree. I'm looking at the November calendar. There's a lot of detail there, but it's really primarily public events. And I have the same gripe with the mayor. The mayor's, I haven't looked at the mayor's calendar recently. It's available on the website, but it's just whenever he's out and about. Those things are accounted for. Mm-hmm. But in the interest of open, transparent government, we want to know what happens here, in the office, in as much detail as possible without compromising anything. And this calendar for November doesn't do that.
Oh.
So I think that we list participants of a meeting. We've added more detail. These are pretty vague. So I really think we'd like to see, and this is true across the board, not just, we'd like to have some accounting for how the district attorney spends his time.
So I'm glad to see that the November calendar is before you. There was one part of that I remember us having a back and forth conversation on for some time, and that's the unique function. It's something both of you have indicated. It's something that really involves a unique function that the district attorney's office has, and given the investigative and prosecutorial function that we're obligated to uphold, and that's given to us by the state of California. So in really looking at the balancing act being done over this period of time, we've, I believe, done a lot of different things that you see before you that really do provide more information, more detail in the calendar. If there are additional things and that was in addition being done through conversations with other agencies, as you know. In specific, I'm referring to the city attorney's office. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to really balance all the important factors here, both the important factor here as well as the important factor of public safety and not compromising any investigations. I'm more than happy to provide you the January month as well. It may be even a little bit even more in detail than the one before you. That may be enough to change your mind, but I did exactly, if I remember correctly, I did exactly what you had asked of me as it relates to providing you some memorialization of what we've done, and that was in response to what you had indicated to me on November, the last time I was here.
Yeah, absolutely. I asked for a list of what you plan to include in the calendars, but the point that both Member Pilpel and I are making is that there's a type of information that's missing from this calendar, and that is those times when the district attorney is in his office meeting with staff about a case. You never have to divulge the case or what's going on, but or having a meeting with staff, like a regular staff meeting or a meeting with some other member of a governing agency. I mean, it's, just think about the calendar that he keeps so he can, do his job every day. It's got more than what we see here. So okay, we understand we don't want to compromise public safety, but we want to know what he does day in and day out, who he's meeting with. Mm-hmm. That is the public's right to know.
Yeah, and the specific items where it says he has meetings in the office all day, but there's no more detail. I feel like I understand where Petrellis is coming from in saying that he's not being provided a full calendar when you guys are only saying that you're having meetings in the office, but nothing more, like what Member Washburn is saying. And so I'm having trouble feeling like this is a matter we should close right now. Yes.
And even those listings are limited. So I think if we're going to continue this for the next meeting, we would probably need to see all the calendars since November, and there aren't that many, and it's not taking a lot of space. But I'm also interested, I remembered the other thing. You said that you've been in consultation with the city attorney. If you have anything on that about how they've advised you that you're in compliance or not, particularly with the new language of 67.29-5, which, as you'll recall, was amended last year by the Board of Supervisors to provide more detail about what should be included and what shouldn't be included in the listings of the various meetings. I think, and as we've heard, if there are other city department heads, elected officials who also have state duties, whether it's the sheriff, the assessor, the public defender, et cetera, if they're able to provide calendars that don't jeopardize public safety, I'm sure we can find a way here.
So I think that the assessor and the district attorney's office are very different kind of agencies.
I said I'm sure we can find a way.
Right.
Hey, it's okay. So unless you guys have other opinion, I'd like to continue this until we see more details in the calendars that are coming out and that you're releasing to people, especially on the in-office meetings. Although it's clear you're doing a better job and you're making improvements. I feel like we're not quite there yet, but we can be soon.
So I move to continue this to the next Compliance and Amendments Committee meeting.
I second.
The motion is continued matter to the next meeting of the Compliance and Amendments Committee, and I would like to
I'm sorry, we have a
memorialize...
public comment.
Public
Comment,
One moment,
public
please.
comment, yes.
One moment, please. One moment, please. May I have a moment, please? I'd like to make a statement. I'm just restating the motion to continue the matter to the call of to the next meeting of the Compliance and Amendments Committee, and I believe that you're requesting that the respondent provide the calendars from December and January.
How
Or
about
is it just January?
Since November.
So December.
So it may be 4 months rather than 2 by the next meeting.
Right, everything from December on.
From the point December 2015 until the next meeting
Yeah.
of the task force.
And it's our hope that we see some improvement. Otherwise, we'll be at this again. So I think that I'm hoping that you've heard what we really want to see.
All right, public comment?
Probably 20 minutes rehashing what you covered at a last hearing or meeting. I think the best way to get the district attorney's attention is to have a finding of a willful violation, 6734, send it to the Ethics Commission and let them deal with it. Of course, it has to be approved by the complete task force, but that should be your recommendation, because otherwise you're going to come back and you'll get some more of this kind of song and dance. Just do it. And the other thing I think bothers me is that Mr. Pilpel, who is not a member of the committee, seems to want to control most of the conversation. And for those of us who don't have all night to be here, it would be better if it was handled directly by the committee members. If Mr. Pilpel wants to chat, he should take public comment like I'm doing now. Thank you.
I wish you had memorialized exactly what you were looking for in the summary, so there would be no dispute that the representative from the district attorney's office would come bringing with him exactly what you're asking for, which is specific information about staff meetings or things that might occur during the day. So it would be clear on both sides and for everybody what exactly he's to come with. He's taking time out of his day to come here and basically being personally attacked, which is not cool, and no reason for that. And I can sympathize with how hurtful that is.
Sure.
I would like to echo what Mr. Grossman said. Please put this matter to rest. Find the district attorney in noncompliance is what I'm asking. It has taken up enough time. I do not believe we're going to get anything in writing from Alex. He shows up again with nothing in hand. How many times are you going to keep asking him to show up with proof they've made the changes? Enough is enough. They are in noncompliance for when I filed the complaint. Put an end to this. Take a vote. The district attorney is a problem on Sunshine.
There being no further public comment, on the motion, Haynes absent. Member Washburn.
Aye.
Washburn, aye. Chair Eldon.
Aye.
Eldon, aye. The motion passes. Next on the agenda is item number 4, file number 15167, complaint filed by Michael Petrellis against the San Francisco Fire Commission for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 67.7 by failing to post an agenda that contains a meaningful and clear description of each item of business to be transacted or discussed at the meeting. Motion on jurisdiction.
Motion on jurisdiction.
I so move.
Seconded.
Is there any public comment regarding jurisdiction? There being no comment on jurisdiction, on the motion to find jurisdiction, Haynes absent. Member Washburn?
Aye.
Washburn, aye. Chair Eldon?
Aye.
Eldon, aye. The motion passes.
All right, 5 minutes, Mr. Petrellis.
Hello, Michael Petrellis of Government Access Project again. What I have up here on the screen is the calendar from the December 17th Fire Commission meeting. It was when the Fire Commission was still down at 2nd and Townsend Street. And this is how they prepared their advance agendas. It's very vague. Report from Chief of Department, report on current issues. Then under that is report from administration, report on the administrative divisions. During public comment at this meeting, a woman named Spike Khan spoke about what she believes is an epidemic of arsons in the mission. She wanted the commission and the fire department to address this matter. After she spoke, Chief Joanne Hayes White spoke with Spike about her concerns. Later in the meeting, during this second part report from the administration, the deputy marshal who's in charge of arson investigations made a presentation about the all the fires in the mission. Yet, when you look at this agenda, you have no idea, first of all, what specifics will be discussed by the chief or her marshals. And I believe that they've really done the entire community a disservice by this kind of a vague agenda. And I think that it's in violation of the Sunshine Laws that you give specifics about what the department brass is going to address. And they didn't do that at December 17th. That's the crux of my complaint.
Thank you. And now can we hear from
Ask for
the...
facts and evidence in support of the...
Sorry?
Facts and evidence in support of the...
Any other parties who would like to present facts or evidence in support of the complainant? Thank you. May we hear from the...
Hi, Maureen, Fire Commission Secretary. And I think what I am here is to explain the violation that 67.7 is not applicable. It does say that the description should be brief, concise, in plain, easily understood English. The Fire Commission commissioners are a very accommodating and reasonable group of people. Unfortunately, we are down a commissioner. Andrea Evans has declined to renew her appointment. And they are very open and willing to hear new ideas and recommendations to help transparency and ease the people's business. Mr. Petrellis actually clarified he had left off a portion of item 6. And when we got the complaint, I was rather surprised because Mr. Petrellis had never contacted the commission to let them know that he was dissatisfied with the customary agenda that we've been posting for almost the 2 years I've been the commission secretary. When we did receive it, we made changes, and the following month we posted an agenda that had a lot more beef in the description, and I think that that goes without saying that the commission is a very accommodating panel of people. And I don't think that we were in violation, although the agenda was brief, and we have beefed it up in the future. As a matter of fact, there's been 3 more meetings that we have provided more information under the description. I wasn't here or prepared to talk about public comment that was made during that December 17th meeting, so I don't know if we need to go there since that's not one of the complaints that we're here to talk about. I thought it was just the brief description on the agenda I was here to bring up.
All right.
Speakers in support.
Yeah, speakers.
Speakers in support? Members of the public?
I live close to the fire department on 2nd Street, and I find them, I don't speak to commissioners at all, but I find them very accommodating. I think the commissioners meet in the public meeting room as you walk in the doors, the right-hand side. I've been in those meetings, just stumbling upon them. I find them very open and very accommodating to the public. You can have a dialogue with them and stuff. I don't think it pertains particular to this, but I think that they are making efforts to do what you asked for as far as these complaints.
Member Washburn?
Yes, I have a question for the Commission Secretary. I'm sorry.
Maureen?
Maureen. So I'm looking at the agenda for January 13th, the regular meeting of the Fire Commission.
Mm-hmm.
So it's page 127 of our packet. So Chief of Department's report, I guess that's what we were talking about from the complaint. So it does, in comparing the two, it looks like there is more detail there. Is that what you mean? You've
Correct.
Beefed it up some? Okay. So that certainly does give more information to a member of the public who might want to come because of a particular item. I think anything you can do to anticipate what somebody from the public might be interested in, and give as much detail as possible.
Well, what ended up happening is at the end of that meeting, when the fire marshal came up and spoke after the public comment, and it was decided during that meeting that we would put a separate agenda item regarding the fire marshal's backlog of investigations and things that were happening in the mission for the following meeting. So it was brought up at the December meeting that we would go and address the issues that were brought up during that, and at that January meeting, he rehashed everything he had said in the December meeting as outlined in my letter to the task force.
Okay. That's helpful. But again, going forward, try to anticipate what members of the public will be interested in.
Right. The other problem with that is because the meetings are on Wednesday, we have to post an agenda on Friday, which doesn't give us a whole lot of time to figure out, what an important issue might be that might have happened Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday,
Sure.
Tuesday, Wednesday leading up to that meeting. So I think that's why in the Sunshine Ordinance, it allows you to be vague and brief in your description.
Right. Vague and brief, well, I wouldn't say vague. I would say
Well, brief is
but
what it says.
But informative.
Exactly.
And yes, if something comes up in the interim from when you posted the agenda, you can't expect to put it on, nor should you, because then people wouldn't have
Right,
proper
and
notice.
that's why we went, starting January, and put in as much detail as possible without limiting the chief to what she can actually bring up.
Right, there may be things that, yeah, you're
Mr.
right,
Chair?
things will come up. But again, I think you're moving in the right direction from what I can see.
Yeah.
Greetings. And I'm not sure, Maureen, if you were here in your prior capacity with the police department at one
I
point.
didn't speak.
Okay. But nice to see you again.
You too.
And I have not been to a commission meeting in some years. When we got complaints, roughly, what was it, 10 years ago from, remind me, who was it at BFI and just got reassigned?
Oh, Darmanin.
John Darmanin. He filed complaints with us about the conduct of their commission meetings. I went and visited a few times. That was a while back.
And
I
we're
did-
here in City Hall now. Our meeting.
Correct. And that's good and great. And
Thanks to-
now you're on SFG TV, I understand?
Yes, well,
Good.
both channels.
Okay. And I did run into Commissioner Cleveland last week, but I didn't know this was on the agenda. We didn't talk about this. So as relates to this item, I think having more detail on those items that the chief is intending to discuss, perhaps not as a list, but maybe with bullets, is good. I think by the Friday before, if this is for a meeting the following week, if you get something from the chief secretary, is that Kelly?
Correct.
Okay, with what is intended to be the bulleted list, and then just have a catch-all at the end for other recent activities or updates, that would cover anything subsequent. And I think the intent is that anything that's a major presentation should be bulleted so that the public has the expectation that that'll be discussed. We could actually craft a memo to commission secretaries and department heads encouraging that. I would take the MTA board agenda as a good example of the director's report where it's got a bulleted list. Some commissions have written department head reports, some don't. I believe you don't have a written report. You just have an oral presentation, generally.
Well, so you're talking to the chief.
Yeah.
Right. I don't.
Well,
Yeah.
well, I think in terms of this particular issue, I'd like to hear more from both of you and then figure out how to proceed from
I'd
there.
like to ask for rebuttals at this time.
Yes, I'd like to ask for rebuttals at this time.
So she goes first.
Respondent goes first?
Yes.
Respondent goes first.
Do you have any rebuttals at this time?
I don't.
I believe that the fire chief knows in advance a few key things that she will be presenting and at this meeting. And my complaint is about this meeting where there are no specifics on what these two presentations are going to be about. I believe it is very important to file the complaint, even though I get along very well with Maureen, and that she sends me lots of advanced documents, even when I don't ask for them. And the fire chief has provided me with her calendars, and you don't have a complaint about the fire chief calendars coming before you. So there's a lot of good that this commission is doing in terms of sunshine, including moving here to City Hall. So I want to put that on the record. What the issue, though, is has to do with specifics. And just like Barbara Garcia at the Department of Public Health presents a written report of what has gone on within her big department for the past 2 weeks. She does that in writing, and at the end of her written and verbal presentation, if something has come up like, I forget the virus last year that was all in the news, Ebola. An Ebola crisis erupted between meetings and before the agenda came out. So at the end of her written presentation, she said, I have to address the Ebola matter that came up. So there's a way to do that. I think that you need to find the Fire Commission in this instance was in violation of not giving specifics to alert the public of anything that would be addressed by either the chief or the deputies.
Okay. I agree with the complainant that the Fire Commission was in violation previously about the calendar the agenda not having specifics that would alert the public to what was being discussed. So I moved to find a violation of 67.7.
I agree. I appreciate all of your efforts, and this is a very important, timely topic that I think, for the criteria we're looking at, I would have expected would have had more clarity. So I second. And then public comment.
Well, with all due respect, I only caught part of this, but I know that fires in the Mission, I live in the Mission, I've lived in the Mission a long time. Fires there are of great concern, especially with the unprecedented property values and the enormous profits to be made when a building doesn't go back to its original use, as happened on Mission Street, as happened with the tire company on 16th, all this in the last couple of years. So this is the issue of the arson matter is extremely important. If I didn't miss what Mr. Petralis was essentially complaining about, which is that the public should be more informed when these matters come before the Fire Commission. I hope I didn't misunderstand any of that, but I do know that arson is of great concern to San Franciscans.
There being no further public comment?
She already spoke.
She spoke in support of the matter.
Correct.
Mr. Chair,
Are you speaking as a member of the public?
I just had another comment.
Okay, I'm not sure procedurally.
We're done with public comment.
I'm not sure if procedurally there's space for that. I mean,
think
if we're
there's-
on the voting stage right now.
Yeah, I just had a comment prior to the vote. I think I have that ability. I'll make it brief. I just had some observations about the Fire Commission.
I don't
It's up to you.
understand how. Let's just vote on it.
Okay, we need to move ahead.
Just to clarify, the motion is to refer the matter to the full task force with a recommendation to find a violation of Sunshine Ordinance Section 67.7. I will notify the complaints when that will appear on the task force agenda. They are not required to attend that meeting, however, they are invited. On that motion, Haynes, absent. Member Washburn.
Aye.
Washburn, aye. Chair Eldon.
Aye.
Eldon, aye. The motion passes. Next on the agenda, item number 5, file number 16007, complaint filed by Michael Petralis against the San Francisco Police Commission for allegedly violating Administrative Code, Section 67.7, by failing to post an agenda that contains a meaningful and clear description of each item of business to be transacted or discussed at the meeting. Would you like to make a motion to find jurisdiction?
Oh, so move.
Seconded.
Is there any public comment regarding jurisdiction on the matter? There being no comment on that motion, Haynes absent. Member Washburn.
Aye.
Washburn, aye. Chair Eldon.
Aye.
Eldon, aye. The motion passes. Would the complainant?
Hello, Michael Petralis again. My complaint stems from the January 6th meeting. As you can see on the monitor here, Chief's report, review of recent activities, department Super Bowl things. Go down a little bit, you see commission reports, commission, president's report, commissioner's reports. Just like as we saw with the December 17th calendar for the Fire Commission meeting, we see another an unspecified calendar here. My big concern is that all of the calendars for the police commission since December 2nd, when Mario Woods was killed by the members of the police department, they have never once calendared, agendized Mario Woods. Now, of course, the killing of Mario Woods has come up during public comment, and at this January 6th meeting in the chief's report, he did discuss the fallout of the killing of Mario Woods, but my concern is that the chief and the police commissioners are not adhering to the Sunshine Law and telling us in advance, in writing, what they are going to be discussing. I think that they have a duty to give us specifics. And regarding the Mario Woods thing, it is not okay that the police chief shows up and says, oh, I've got something to say. And then Susie Loftus then says, oh, well, we went to Washington for a big conference, and because of the aftermath of the Mario Woods killing, we're going to address a number of issues to do with use of force. That's not good. It is really time for the police commission and the police chief to, first of all, tell us in advance specifics of what's on the agenda. They have to put the Mario Woods killing on the agenda as its own item, and also the police chief, as with the fire chief, they've got to follow the example of Barbara Garcia at the Department of Health. They need to prepare written reports. The fire department and the police department are crucial to public safety, and yet both chiefs show up to their commission meetings and make presentations only verbally. If the public wants to find out what the chiefs were talking about, you either have to watch it on video demand, or if you're aware that the closed caption transcript, when you search for it, can find what was verbally presented, that's one way, but that's not good. I want, though it's not part of my complaint, I want the police chief, and he's heard me say this at numerous meetings, put it in writing what you are going to discuss. Do what Barbara Garcia does, and in your agenda say, here's a link to the supporting document from the police chief of his activities.
Thank you. Facts and evidence in support of?
There being no facts and facts, there being no additional comment, would the respondent like to comment?
Hi, my name is Rachel Kilshire. I'm with the San Francisco Police Department Commission Office. And so we were made aware of Mr. Petrellis's complaint, and so we understand that the agenda needs to be sufficiently clear and specific to alert a person of average intelligence and education whose interests are affected by the item that he or she may have reason to attend the meeting. And so while Mr. Petrellis feels that our agenda did not do that, the department and commission feel like it's a judgment call, and reasonable minds can differ. The department has made, the department and the commission have made a conscious effort to provide more information to the public. And if you look at the February 3rd, February 10th, and February 17th agenda for the meetings that are that just passed and are coming tomorrow, we have put additional information on those. Regarding the Mario Woods shooting on December 2nd, while Mr. Petrellis would like to see Mario Woods' name on the agenda, that's not likely to happen. It is an ongoing investigation, both criminal and administrative, within the police department. And the discussions are not about the Mario Woods shooting. The discussions are about revising use of force policy within the police department. And they are the primary topics of conversation, while there may be, and Mr. Petrellis alluded to this, public comment items about that. The commission's intent is not to talk about the Mario Woods shooting. It is to talk about changes and re-engineering the use of force within San Francisco. Specifically, Mr. Petrellis mentioned the chief's report in writing, and I'm not prepared to talk on that, as that was not included in the complaint.
Thank you.
All right. Support for the respondent.
Excuse me, I have a question. I didn't get your last name.
Kilshaw, Kilshaw.
You mentioned, I saved some other agendas, well, parts of agendas here for January 6th and January 13th and 20th, and you said that, and these seem to have somewhat more detail than what we have on the screen. But you say that even since then, you're giving increasingly more detail.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if you have something to show us about the most recent agendas.
Can I go online? Oh, thank you so much.
Navigate faster than I can.
Okay. And how do I get
I will.
Oh, thanks. So that is the.
Give me a second.
Okay. So that is the February 3rd. You can see that's the use of force policy, the commission reports that Mr. Petrellis was talking about. The president's report included comments on the department and the commission attending a use of force reengineering conference in Washington, D.C., and then we had some community forums within various neighborhoods. And the department is also being looked at by a blue ribbon panel, and so they're reporting back on that. So that's February 3rd. Can I move to the next one?
Sure. I just wanted to say the blue ribbon panel, I see that item there, but I wouldn't know what that involved, so I think it would be helpful to include what that is.
Sure.
So be specific about it.
Okay. So the next item, February 10th. And as you can see, we did go to various other commission websites and adopted a new format for each of the reports and announcements section, and the line, this item allows the chief of police to report on recent department activities and make announcements, and then go into allowing an update on the following topics. That first sentence, similar to the fire commission, we also have our meetings on Wednesday, and they must be posted on Friday. So that also, we have the same issues for all day Friday, all day Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So we think that first line allows some leeway for the chief to report on things that were not contemplated when we addressed or posted the agenda on Friday.
Yeah, this is very much more detailed than, they're getting better and better.
And then the agenda for tomorrow, which was posted Friday. You can see it's more detailed. The thing that, from the commission's staff perspective, is that we send out an email we have 3 different sort of groups that we need to get information from. The OCC, the Office of Citizen Complaints, the actual commission president or commissioners, and then the chiefs. And so we rely on the information that they send us. So like in this case, the OCC director did not send any information in, but she is aware that because there's nothing on there, then she does not have, unless it's come up over the weekend, no agenda items to talk about. So for example, I think on the February 3rd agenda, she had mentioned a resolution that she wanted to talk about that was brought up at the Board of Supervisors, and I don't know the word is cautioned, but she was told that if she wanted to talk about it, we needed to put it on the agenda. So we're understanding the issues that Mr. Petrellis and others have, and we are making all efforts to be more accountable and transparent.
Thank you.
All right, I think we already asked for any speakers on behalf of responding on your side. I think we already asked for that.
We can ask, I believe, yes, we have.
Yes.
There was a question.
So it's time for rebuttals unless you have something.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So to Sergeant Kilshaw?
Yes.
And welcome, greetings. The examples do show that things are getting better. I just had a couple of things. The agenda itself is sort of on the website as like HTML or something. Is there a way that you can attach the actual PDF of the document so that someone can just print out the agenda in the same way that you would find it at the meeting?
So we're working.
Oh, sorry. My apologies.
So we are working on that. The
Okay.
department's, the whole police department's website is being, so I don't know the right word, I'm not techie, refurbished. And so we are hoping to do that so that if there's a document, you just click on the link. I know there's other commissions that are
that's
able
in progress.
to do that.
And similarly, attachments, and I think the last time I looked for like draft minutes that hadn't yet been approved, I couldn't find those on the website.
Right.
Is that also coming soon to a police commission website near you?
That I don't know for sure. I'll
Okay.
ask about that.
Okay. And similarly, all of the presentations that are referred to, if there's a written presentation, or as Mr. Petrellis might say, a written presentation, if it's available in advance, it would be great to attach that document so people can also be as informed as possible. So when they get to the meeting, it's, I have a question about slide 17, can we talk about that? Similarly with the budget, I mean, there's a lot of budget documentation.
Right.
I assume that you have.
We've talked about this.
Okay.
I'm working with the office manager in the
Okay.
chief's office to get the people who are technically able to do those things, but with this sort of revamping of the
Okay.
website.
And if you could use our assistance or guidance, we're happy to provide that. And the last thing I saw with the additional detail that you've got there on the reports, you might want to have a little space in between because it was very dense and not the easiest thing in the world to read. But the content is good. It's getting better.
Thank you.
Do we have, I think we're in the rebuttal stage still.
Yes. Would the respondent like to make a rebuttal?
No, thank you.
Hello, Michael Petrellis again. I want to go on the public record and say that both the Fire Commission and the Police Commission and the secretaries for both of these commissions are very cooperative and are really putting in place changes. Not only are they putting in place changes, you're seeing it right here. It is being done even before we're getting to this hearing today. I also want to recognize that with the Fire Commission, they heard the public and one of their members about moving the meetings. They are now here at City Hall. They're on TV. They get sunshine. With this Police Commission, it is the same willingness to make the changes and to make the changes quickly. And or I will say, I have not been told by either the Fire Commission or the Police Commission that they've got to consult with the city attorney, that they have to worry about jeopardizing investigations. I mean, we're talking two very important agencies for public safety who really are getting the transparency issue. And I have looked at tomorrow's agenda, and both in terms of what the chief will present and other items on the agenda, such as this blue ribbon, excuse me, not the Blue Ribbon Commission. It is the complaint by the Police Officers Association involving the district attorney and not getting documents. That is clearly explained on the agenda, and I think there's going to be even more interest in the meeting tomorrow. So I just want to say the Police Commission and Fire Commission are doing a lot to improve transparency. Thank you.
Okay, so actually good work all around. However, like before, there'll be a violation, but it's for the record. And so I move to find a violation of 67.7.
I agree. Seconded.
The motion is to refer the matter to the full task force with the recommendation to find a violation of 67.7.
All right. Public comment. Public comment.
I think in the violation, you should cite the subsection because 67.7 is a large section of the ordinance. So when it comes up to the task force, you don't have to rely on remembering. You can say, this is specifically what we asked for, and this is what they complied with or didn't comply with. So it's much easier. And also, I think in the agenda, I mean, there is the small possibility of adding supporting documents somewhere there, maybe at the end, or maybe click on something, but it's a complex agenda. It doesn't seem easily put together, and especially at the last minute. So I think they made remarkable improvements just in a couple months.
So yeah, to be specific, it's 67.7B. 7B.
We are clarifying that it's section 67.7B.
I think it's actually A and B.
I don't believe we need to change it as we are describing the violation.
Right.
All right.
I think it's
I do believe that there's an additional violation that you might want to consider, and it's 67-15. If you look at their agenda, what you'll see is that they're trying to discuss lots of things and have it's like they're discussing. It's like they're discussing several things. There's like 4 or 5 different points. I don't know if this even shows it, but it's like the chief's reports, the review of recent activities, update Department of Super Bowl planning, status update, social.
Please don't hold the microphone.
Excuse me. But there's like several major items that they're talking about, and it seems like the people are not getting public comment on these things, and it seems like they're adding reports and different things into public record, after they discuss it, but there's no public comment on these things. So, if you don't make a decision on this, I would appreciate it if you at least had some conversation and made a recommendation, because I definitely believe that this is a violation, and if you don't address it here, I feel the need to file regarding it. I mean, it's excessive. Many documents are being entered into the public, and there's really 2 minutes for like 4 or 5 different things.
I think given the narrow scope of the complaint that we're dealing with right now, it might be worth you looking into filing a separate complaint to fully address that.
Okay, because I appreciate it, because sometimes, from my history, sometimes you'll just look at stuff and just add several violations, but it looks like it's something I'll probably have to file for then. Thank you.
Is there any additional public comment on this matter?
Hello, my name is Sylvia Downs, and I think these violations that they're trying to remark on has a lot to do with human health services, and they don't want this cure to help outside workers. I've been going to school and trying to find out paperwork on this issues that is totally to discourage the human health services on this part. And I think this is a violation that has been done already too many times, and I'm already got filed a petition on this to get a lawyer recommended that's going to be paid. And I think that a lot of this has been done because of things that somebody, had no control of, because of a virus that's already heating with this not being paid for the discovery to kill the human nature and physical and with children. And I think we're not even looking at this. Our children are all our fault and our human sources. That this is a discouragement just to bring out some of the things that have been said at City Hall and get rid of the main resource that is, detective on our human, discovery. And this has been an insane matter in my part because of a disease that I cured, and a lot of doctors saying that it can be cured, and it's already being in process right now. And this is, I'm not going to let this issue of human resources, people dying and the babies, keep on, having troubles with their, other, other kind of resources and germs that's been spread out in San Francisco, which one that started it in the first place, which this has been a totally insane matter of, wrapping up with a person that is for, life internally. And
thank you.
On that, there being no further public comment on the motion, Haynes absent. Chair Member Washburn?
Aye.
Washburn, aye. Chair Eldon?
Aye.
Eldon, aye. The motion passes. Next on the agenda.
One point of clarification. Will this now go before the full commission, full task force?
It has been referred to the full task force with a recommendation to find a violation.
Thank you.
We already had it for this one.
She's asking for public comment out of order for general public comment.
Well, it wouldn't be out of order since it's past 5.
We don't have that statement on the agenda, but it's at your discretion if you'd like to take public comment out of order.
I'd like to move on with 6, and then we can talk.
Next on the agenda is item number 6, file number 16005, complaint filed by Charles Pitts against San Francisco Police Commission for allegedly violating Administrative Code, Section 67.25A by failing to respond to an immediate disclosure request in a timely and/or complete manner. On the motion to find jurisdiction on this matter?
So move.
Seconded.
Is there any public comment regarding jurisdiction? There being no public comment on jurisdiction, on the motion, Haynes absent. Member Washburn?
Aye.
Washburn, aye. Chair Eldon?
Aye.
Eldon, aye. The motion passes.
Hello. So are we just going on to the scenario / the case now?
You are allowed 5 minutes to make your presentation regarding your complaint at this time.
I just feel like this is very simple in that they did not understand or did not properly interpret 6725-A. I think they fail to understand that they have 24 hours to respond. And it just seems like they chose not to do that, and they just went on to the information request. I definitely believe that the legislation / document is like, you have to provide the information, you have to respond in 24 hours. And then if it's too much or you got to go somewhere else to get it, then you're allowed that, but you have to respond in 24 hours. And technically, they were supposed to give me the information in 72 hours, but they didn't respond until I filed with the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force. So I feel it's just very basic that they didn't respond when they were supposed to. They're interpreting the law the way they want to, and it's almost like they didn't take it seriously until I filed with this body. So there's any questions?
Not yet.
Okay, I think that I guess I'll rest. I'll pause. Thank you.
Thank you. Any member of the public who would like to speak? Facts and evidence to support his case.
Yeah, this is somebody else again on that. It was a respond or anything to do with what I wrote before that.
Is this in support?
It's in.
Can you focus on how this is in support of his case? That's what we have time for right now.
Yeah. There was no response. There was no, written, with only what the law that they want, and that this has been, totally what's called jealousy of what has already been processed, and I think this is. Totally out of question. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Can the respondent?
My name is Rachel Kilshaw for the San Francisco Police Department and Commission. The Commission received Mr. Pitts' request for immediate disclosure on January 6, 2016 after 5:30 p.m. We reviewed it the next day and determined that per Administrative Code 67.25, Mr. Pitts' request was not simple, routine, or otherwise a readily answerable request, and therefore the Commission determined that Mr. Pitts' request was not appropriate for an immediate disclosure request. Timelines governing the standard request applied, and the Department complied with these deadlines and provided both by email and U.S. mail the responsive documents on January 15th, and just noted that we did receive Mr. Pitts' U.S. mail envelope back to us, as he did not provide a zip code, but we mailed it anyway, and it was a P.O. box. I did hand that envelope to Mr. Pitts at February 10th's Police Commission. Regarding our notification of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force complaint, the department was notified on January 15th after we had already put the packet in the U.S. mail and were in the process of putting the documents into the email, and we sent it to him. The ordinance allows for us to, if there's a determination that it's the immediate disclosure does not fit that, it allows us to adhere to the time deadlines governing the standard request, which is the 10 days. And just for the record, the requester's designation of a request as an immediate disclosure request does not automatically make it so. And so the department and commission are denying the allegation, and we did comply within the 10 days. It was actually 8 days.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Sergeant Kilshaw, I have a question.
Yes.
So you received the immediate disclosure request from Mr. Pitts. When you determined that he was asking for quite a bit of information, did you then contact him?
We did
and let
not.
him? Okay. Actually, the ordinance requires that you contact the requester and let the requester know that the request is voluminous. It's going to take you some time to find the information, and you can start providing parts of the information on a rolling basis. But it is, the law is clear when it says immediate disclosure request. It may be impossible for you to provide the information within 24 hours, but it is incumbent on you to correspond with the requester and let them know that.
If you look at our response to the complaint, you can see it was voluminous. The advice that the commission and department got was that the requirement to notify the requester is if we needed an extension. We did not need an extension. We determined it was a 10-day request, and we complied with those deadlines.
Well, I think you got some wrong information. I think that
Where did who told you that? Sorry, who gave
Our
you?
advice attorney.
Okay, so it was, okay.
Okay, so it was poor advice. Our body has, the way we interpret this ordinance is that an IDR requires a response, even if it is you're asking for all of this information. We cannot possibly get it to you in 24 hours. We will get it to you as quickly as possible, and we'll start providing it to you on a rolling basis. So it would have been the same. You would have been providing the information, as you did. It just, you would have let him know, this is why we can't give you this information as soon as you want it.
So I guess the statute saying that the department or any agency can determine that it's so voluminous that it becomes a 10-day, a self-designation is, I'm just questioning because...
So I think it's an issue that you didn't let him know that it was going to take longer.
And it says that in the statute, or it says if you're asking for an extension, you need to. That was how it was told to us.
Excuse me.
Sorry, I'm just trying to,
It's a fair
because we
question.
we did provide it.
There's an answer to that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Member Pilpel.
If you read carefully 67.25B at the end, if the voluminous nature requires an extension of 10 days as provided, the requester shall be notified as required by the close of business on the business day following the request. So we take, if I may, we take those two provisions to require that when there's a properly formed IDR provided in the various ways to a department, that the obligation on the department is to provide some response by the close of business of the following business day. It may be to provide responsive records. It may say, we have no responsive records. It may say, we need an extension. It may say, this is going to take months. Can you narrow it? It can be any number of things, but there needs to be some response provided with whatever mechanism you have to attempt to contact them. And so there's that. We're not really questioning at this point whether you properly invoked an extension, just that there was no communication made to the requester.
Well, we didn't need an extension because it wasn't an IDR. It was
So we interpret that to mean when you determine that it's not appropriate for an IDR but a regular request, that you need to inform the requester to that end.
Okay,
it's not a big deal.
Right.
It's a small deal.
Right, I understand that, but I think our department would argue, but that's not what the statute says. The statute says if you're asking for an extension, and we did not.
I think to keep this issue from coming up in the future, the task force should talk to the attorney who's giving you this advice to go over why we're interpreting it this way versus their interpretation, because otherwise this will keep happening in the future.
Well, I mean, if you're saying there was a violation, we'll obviously change how we do it.
Okay.
So it's really up to the requester is the one who determines whether this is an immediate disclosure request.
But I think the rules in good government says that that's not true, right? I mean...
Well, the good government guide, we take issue with a lot of what's said there.
Oh.
It's a guide.
It's a guide, and we often are at odds with it. We'd like to write it ourselves.
Maybe that would be a good thing to change that and give direction, because when it says that the requester isn't the one who, just by mere requesting an IDR doesn't make it so. But if you find us in violation, certainly we will, from now on, comply with the... And I know some people are saying 24, some are saying 48. So our understanding is he turned it in to us after. So just so we can be clear, he turned it into us after business hours on a Wednesday. Therefore, we would have until that first Friday to provide him with some sort of notification. Is that correct?
If I may?
Yes.
Our general approach is something that's in by 5 p.m. or the close of business on a regular business day needs to be responded to by 5 p.m. or the close of business on the following day by whatever means. And so, yes, if something comes in after that or over the weekend, then it's deemed received the next business day, and the deadline to respond in some fashion would be 5 p.m. on the following business day.
Okay.
And again, this is... My view is this is not such a big deal. It's just that you have something in place to respond, because the expectation from the public is that they're going to get something. And so all you need to do is get them something. And it could be a big thing, it could be a small thing, but that you have some mechanism in place to get them something.
We will do that.
Thank you.
Thoughts?
Let's hear a rebuttal. And then...
I'm sorry.
Was this the rebuttal? Do you have an additional rebuttal?
No.
I think. We've already gone through that.
We did not do that for the respondent.
Oh, we didn't?
No, we did not.
Oh, okay.
We jumped right into the questions.
Whoops.
This is support of the respondent at this time.
Firstly, I want to note and point out that the file for this case has been taken out of the file book probably about 45 minutes ago and in Mr. Pitts's hands, either in the back or here. So any other member of the public who would want to look at that file did not have access to it because he's got it. So I really couldn't look at the file unless I was going to bring it up online. That's not cool. That's a public file, and the members of the public should have access to it. Shouldn't be sitting in somebody's hand because they've taken it out of the file. Nonetheless, I think this is a situation where perhaps the police department could be educated. They seem willing to want to know and understand what the Sunshine Ordinance is. They're not hiding behind a city attorney. They're not passing the buck to another department or saying, I don't know, I'm just a secretary, like often happens here. And I think they should more or less be given the benefit of the doubt, because there are certain people here, like Mr. Pitts, who really spends an inordinate amount of time in the law library devising ways to irk departments. And I know we're not here to try and figure out how these complaints come about or why they're filed, but clearly in this case, it's an oversight or a lack of information on the part of the police department, where Mr. Pitts probably spends 60 hours a week finding ways in the law library to irk people.
All right.
Now rebuttals.
Now rebuttals.
Can I offer another observation unrelated to the last comment?
Let's let them get
Okay.
through with their thing. Please.
Drum roll, please.
I would just say that if you're going to find in violation, it's certainly not something that the police department cannot do. We will certainly comply. And I think you'll see that we did comply with the 10-day time frame. Whether we should have, if that's what you find, then we will. But we did comply. It was very lengthy. The timing, while Mr. Pitts says that his sunshine ordinance complaint was what compelled us to finally answer him, that is not true. It took us quite some time to gather these documents, and I'm not sure the day he actually filed his complaint, but the department did receive it in the afternoon of January 15th, well after the photocopied documents were in the mail, and we were just in the process of putting them into the electronic version when we were notified.
Thank you. Mr. Pitts?
Ultimately, you get it. Sorry. Ultimately, you get it. I guess one of my main problems with what the police department is saying is they're trying to make a capricious determination as to what is and what isn't a immediate disclosure request. I just feel like when you look at this, I feel like I followed most of the rules regarding.
Let me see what he.
I'm sorry. I'm just no. To me, this is the part that I'm saying. This is, to me, when you look at this is relatively cut and paste from the ordinance. It's on pleading paper. The head, it gets the San Francisco Administrative Code. It lists immediate disclosure requests. This is almost cut and paste from the ordinance. If they're saying it's not if it's not immediate disclosure request, I would like them to cite some type of code, just some type of code. And then they make reference to the good government guide. Cite some code, cite something. I just feel, Mario Woods, Armel Pertez, you see, it's almost like they make their own reality up, and we have to suffer. So, I'm glad that you get it. In addition, Papil is right in the section B, possibly the last sentence. This would have not happened if they would have responded in 24 hours. And I can understand it's big, but all they had to do was respond in 24 hours. And they didn't really respond at all until I filed with the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force. And in addition, it's kind of cloudy here in that you see January 14, she mentioned January 15. So I filed on the 14th, the process goes through the 15th, so she didn't respond until it got here. It came to this body.
Thank you.
Okay. I move to find a violation of 67.25 A and B.
I second.
Will that violation be for failure to respond?
To respond,
Within 24 hours to the immediate.
By the end of the next business day?
right,
Yes.
letting Mr. Pitts know that it was going to take them a while to get these documents for him.
And I would also like to note for the General Task Force to understand why the police has different information about how to follow these procedures versus what we're operating under.
I will note that in the recommendation.
If I may.
Okay.
So just the other observation, the immediate disclosure request on pleading paper is a little odd, but I think it's fine. I think it's pretty clear, the code section, immediate disclosure request. You've got on here received 1/6/15, I think you mean 16, at the police commission meeting. But I note that in addition to the P.O. box, Charles provided his email address, the Packasaw. So, okay, all right. So I think you had a reasonable opportunity to just provide the thing. I think it's fine. And let's move forward. Thanks.
Okay. Public comment from those who have not spoken yet?
Ms. Johnson, you've already spoken on the matter in support? You've already spoken.
That's it?
All right, let's have
On that motion, Haynes absent. Member Washburn.
Aye.
Washburn, aye. Chair Eldon.
Aye.
Eldon, aye. The motion passes. Next on the agenda is item number 7, file number 16006, hearing. Proposed amendments to the Administrative Code, Sunshine Ordinance Section, Chapter 67, via ballot initiative and/or other avenues.
Do you want to take item 8 so that...
Yeah, I think we're looking to do general public comment first on the agenda.
Okay, we will take general public comment at this time. This is item number 8. Public comment. Members of the public may address the committee on matters that are within the committee's jurisdiction, but not on today's agenda.
Thanks for doing that. It kind of makes it a long night if you don't have a case here. I just want to speak about something that's very close to me. It happens almost at every meeting, which is if I don't receive documents, the response from the respondent is slander, personal attacks, just these vague allegations about voluminous files where I'm supposed to be doing things to staff members of the Arts Commission, commissioners. It's very vague. It's been going on for 3 years. I know that I haven't done them. It's not an appropriate response as to why I don't get documents. We see departments come in. They're very clear, straightforward hearings where a person might request documents. They might state their case, and they might eventually get some documents. There might be some back and forth, but it's very clear. In my case, it's never been like that. From the onset, Kate Patterson of the Arts Commission, who I don't know, never spoke to, except to see her in hearings, has consistently slandered me. I know that I haven't done the things that I'm accused of, and I would ask that the task force members, particularly Member Pilpel and Member Highland, who seem to have some doubts in their mind as to whether these events took place. They did not. I don't stalk people. I don't follow them on trolleys. I don't burst into offices unannounced. What else did she say? I mean, she went on a rant. Actually, at the last meeting, you might recall, she was kind of laughing about it. And I think it's particularly cruel. And it's not an appropriate response to a document request or a procedural request under the task force. And I would really like to see it stop. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Sylvia Johnson, and the procedures that was done, I think had a lot to do with that FedEx commercial that they had ran on the radio, and because they this things that wasn't even true, and they have been saying in that it was an issue because I missed that FedEx computerized and phone thing, and I have been working with details on this. This is only done to make sure that the money that was supposed to be, as required for healthcare issues, to make it sure it wouldn't be so that the world would never exist, and that they can just be on whatever they want us to say, because missing that because of being ill. And I told them before that the 6 years that I was, ill, and with no kind of treatments, no nothing, and being accused and picked on because of illness, that I already told me that as long as you had it, it was going to take a long time to heal it. But I'm a modern miracle that it's only taken me 8 months to go through this very deadly virus. And I apologize for being sick, and it's not my fault because of the illness that I've been having, and being able to handle all these changes that I've been going through. That a clear review and report that I'll be working, writing, and not fast like that everybody in our modern day world. But it's because the time, and consider there's no more time you take on, is the better that you get on result. And the things that have been moving on so fast that nobody even considers it. This rights and being able to be.
Thank you.
Is there any additional general public comment? There is no additional general public comment at this time. Next on the agenda, item number 7, file number 16006, hearing on the proposed amendments to Administrative Code Sunshine Ordinance, Chapter 67.
All right. I asked that this be put on the agenda, and I mentioned this at the last full task force meeting. And I mentioned several times before that there was interest amongst members of the League of Women Voters and former task force members of the public, to move forward with amendments to the ordinance. And so this is the first of at least two informational hearings before the task force. The item says discussion and action, but there will be no action in terms of voting on any amendments, proposed amendments, nothing like that. But this is to inform those present and anyone listening to the recording about, generally about what this effort entails. So we have some members of the group that's been working on this the past few months here and here to speak about it. So, Chair
Sounds good.
Eldon.
Let's hear it.
You might want to specify a time for them to speak.
I think the members are going to present a summary view of it, and we're going to ask them some questions. So minimum 5 minutes plus questions, however long that takes.
Actually, I was thinking also of asking some questions.
Great. We're here to answer them.
Anyway, my name is Richard Nee. I'm a member of the steering committee of San Franciscans for Sunshine. This is the group that is undertaking to try to put a series of Sunshine Ordinance amendments on the ballot this November. I want to take hats off to the League of Women Voters because they have really been taking the lead in this. As a matter of fact, your own chair, Chair Washburn, has been kind of spearheading the whole thing with the League of Women Voters and with San Franciscans for Sunshine. Who is San Franciscans for Sunshine? It's the same name of the group that brought us Proposition G in 1999, which is the current ordinance that passed by 58 to 42 ratio in November 1999, and that's the current ordinance. In terms of what we have before you today, it's really the result of more than a dozen years' worth of work. A lot of it done by the task force before now, and what the League and San Franciscans for Sunshine have done is kind of use that as a starting point to draft what we hope will be an ordinance that will strengthen the Sunshine Ordinance and clarify and narrow the definition, the description of the sunshine-related duties of city boards, commissions, departments, agencies, etc. But this is a work in progress, and that's one of the reasons that we're up here. You are members of the task force, and presumably you have, even those of you who are newest on the task force, presumably your experiences have given you some ideas about how the ordinance can be made better, how sunshine can be made stronger and more effective in City Hall. So before we leave the podium today, we want to hear from you on what your ideas are. What we have so far is a series of amendments, highlighting some of them. Policy bodies, a meeting in City Hall must broadcast their meetings on SF Gov TV or real-time stream. That was one of the provisions in Proposition E, which the voters defeated last year. And actually, it's a very good idea. There were other parts of Proposition E that made it unpalatable, but this particular item, just by itself, is a very, very good idea, and we would like to see it made part of the ordinance. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the composition of the ordinance as prescribed under what is now Section 67.30A. That may change with additions or deletions. That number may change, but for purposes of this discussion, let's still refer to it as 67.30A. You will notice that it brings in a lot more community involvement in the process of appointing task force members. It also changes somewhat the competition of the task force. And there is a very specific reason for our doing it this way. We have seen, particularly since 2012, the Board of Supervisors has far too much ability to sabotage this task force and its work. And by giving the community more authority to participate in the appointment process, we feel that this will provide a very good counterweight to the Board of Supervisors when the board wants to try to subvert the ordinance and make the task force weaker. You'll recall that in 2012, the board failed to appoint, at least initially, a person who is handicapped, and that forced the task force to take a 5-month hiatus, which exacerbated an already long backlog of cases. So this is, again, a work in progress. You'll note there are some on the draft that I prepared for a revised 67.30A. There are a number of specific organizations named. I have to report to you that the Electronic Frontier Foundation notified me today that they're going to decline a nominator's role, so there are other alternatives we're looking at. One thing that I am suggesting to the San Franciscans for Sunshine Steering Committee is that those 2 seats go to San Francisco Tomorrow, which is a very good public interest organization. And in order to bring the task force, you will, and keep the task force into the 21st century, the staff positions elucidated in this, there'd be one addition to it, and that would be a director of information technology. So it's one idea that I've suggested, and again, this is something we have to discuss within San Franciscans for Sunshine. That pretty much wraps it up for me, and I don't know if Bruce Brugman wants to add anything. Chair Eldon?
I'm wondering what are the specific issues that you are most concerned about that you've seen from your experiences that you're trying to solve here, particularly around, what's a solution, for example, that will allow less influence among the people you're concerned about influencing?
Okay, a couple of things spring to mind off the top. Number one, the task force has no real teeth. We have to, if the task force finds willful violation, it has to seek enforcement from any or all of 4 entities, as you know, the Ethics Commission, Board of Supervisors, District Attorney, and California Attorney General. Now, the Ethics Commission, as you know, has routinely rubber-stamped a staff recommendation that the task force finding be dismissed. The Board of Supervisors doesn't even respond. The district attorney's response is, we'll do something if we see criminal activity here. We don't see it. California Attorney General's response has been, oh, well, gee, this is a local matter. We don't get involved. So the task force has no real teeth, and one of the things that this would do is to declare that the Ethics Commission is to enforce the will of the task force, not re-adjudicate the task force findings. That's one of the things. Another weakness, if you will, is that this was an omission. Section 6721E, if you recall, provides that respondents to complaints must send a knowledgeable representative to task force hearings, but that deals only with complaints dealing with public records, and complaints dealing with the public meetings, that's not in there. So this is one little area where, it's kind of a tweak, but it needs to be done.
Are there, just sort of getting ahead to your proposed solutions, what are your biggest concerns about the ways you're proposing to solve the problem? For example, if you take away power from the Board of Supervisors through this amendment to appoint members of the task force, what are the drawbacks with opening up to that to the public? I mean, just sort of playing out that scenario, how do you expect that to look? Let's say
we're not disinvolving the Board of Supervisors entirely.
Right.
What it does is declare that the Board of Supervisors must appoint the people nominated unless they can present clear and compelling evidence that specific nominees are not qualified. So we're not taking the board out of this. Another thing, I think opponents might say, well, gee, this is putting the appointments in the hands of people who aren't even elected, who have no accountability to the voters. That's not the case. Again, the board does have final appointing authority. And again, these are public interest organizations drawn from the community. These are people active in the community, actively engaged in what's going on in this city. So to say that they don't have accountability, I don't think that's accurate.
And plus, would you say that because you're putting this out as a proposition, as a ballot measure, that would be voted in and thereby show that the voters are stamping their approval on this entire process? So essentially, the act of having voters vote on this will sanction the specific plans.
That's correct. Our intention is to put this on the ballot. And that's the way it has to be, because Proposition G is voter enacted. So in very rare specific cases, the Board of Supervisors can amend the ordinance if it furthers the letter and the spirit of the ordinance and of state sunshine laws. But to take the entire body of laws and present a series of amendments, that has to go to the voters. And we believe that what we are putting out here will increase community involvement in sunshine, community awareness of sunshine, and it will reduce the ability of people in City Hall to subvert the sunshine and make the task force less effective.
Did you have anything?
No, I don't have any questions. Not yet.
Yes.
So my initial read on this, and I only saw this in the last few days, I was not involved in this drafting process, and you can explain at some point what process San Franciscans for Sunshine used and how open that process was or is. But my initial take in reading this is that there's a lot of interesting stuff in here. There's some, in fact, very good stuff. There's some stuff that I have some issues with, as you might expect, but that there really is some interesting thought here. I do agree with your assessment that it's a work in progress. I didn't actually want to talk much about the composition of the body. I think that's sort of its own discussion. But I did have some other areas that I thought we could talk about if you want to do that tonight or what.
I wanted to say, Member Pilpel, you brought up the issue of the process here that's being followed, and for everyone's information here and background, as former member Nee said, the document that was part of the packet is a culmination of work that began with the task force. When I joined the task force 8 years ago, I was on this committee, and this committee had been working for several years. And then that was when Erica Craven Green was here, and then she left, and then Member Nee took over the committee, and we continued with this process. The full task force passed a lot of the recommendations that you see here. That wasn't the end of it, though. Then there was some additional work done by, again, former task force members and members of the public, the advocates that have brought cases to us over the years. There was some additional work. So what you have here is basically, it's largely what was in place in 2012, although with some changes. And now this document is out there for the world, and we are asking for review by attorneys. We've had half a dozen attorneys Bruce Brugman can speak to, who's agreed to look at it. I know DCA Threat is looking at it. There's an attorney with the League of Women Voters that's looking at it. And we invite members of the public and task force members, everybody, to weigh in on what they want to see. So it's going to be a challenge pulling all that together, but we have a body here that's working on it. We'll be coming back to the full task force.
Just briefly also, when it was before the task force, a lot of members of the public came forward with some very, very good ideas. one of whom is in this room, Alan Grossman. Another gentleman who used to attend regularly but can't anymore because of his work obligations, and that's Kim O'Crossman. So this hasn't been a dictatorial process by any means. It's been open, and we've had a lot of very good public involvement, and we're very grateful for it.
I had another more specific question. I see some of the ideas you have include putting hard copies online and making them searchable. Beyond sort of, I mean, there are many different changes you have in here, but from my short amount of time on this body, it feels that a lot of the issues are procedural around, for example, earlier today, the police department misunderstanding sort of like that they had to give a response of some sort within 24 hours when they thought they had 10 days to respond.
Right.
And I've been thinking, and I've talked about this a bit before here, where it's like a lot of the documents that people are looking for, the city is already, at least some departments are already trying to put online and put on the SF data site and publish in other forums just as a matter of course of doing business, maybe even having the publishing of internal data be an automated process that does not require any sort of human involvement in terms of requests. My personal feeling is if the city has a focus on making everything that doesn't have a reason to be private public, it will allow many of the people who are coming here looking for information to find what they're looking for and not even have to go through the entire process. And that would turn this task force into one more focused on the biggest issues where there are meaty, substantive questions about what's being withheld and why procedures are not being followed, rather than some of the complaints here that are about minor procedures but take up a lot of time and discourage people from wanting to be on the task force. So I'm very interested in solutions that will speed up the entire procedure for getting sunshined information.
So what I hear you saying in terms of our initiative is that the searchable records provision here is something that you like, something that's desirable, correct?
It was kind of hard for me to tell you what you intended with the language. Are you trying to say every city agency should by default put all information online and searchable all of the time, or are you saying only requested information through the Sunshine Ordinance would be searchable? Because what I'm saying is I think everything should be searchable regardless of whether or not the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force is involved.
I think that's...
And it's a huge scope expansion from what you're talking about in some sense,
Yeah.
but I think it gets at the root of the problem.
No, I would certainly agree that that any disclosable public record should be put out there in a way that a member of the public should be able to access it on his own without necessarily having to go to the agency. And if a member of the public has a question of an agency or a board or commission, whatever, he can always contact that entity and say, where do I go to find this? And it would probably make it easier for the entity to comply too.
Right.
Here, just go to this database, boom, you're there.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's I think we're on the same page in that.
Yeah, I mean, I brought this up once with, I think, the Department of Health Services, and they complained about the software they were using, and I realized the sort of broader idea is something that San Francisco is one of the best cities in the country in terms of opening up more and more public data. However, there's still a long way to go, and from my conversations with the Chief Data Officer and the Chief Technology Officer of the city, there are some departments that are more interested in that effort than others, and it seems like this task force could help encourage, in various ways, every department to get on the same page about that effort.
Yeah, I am totally in agreement. As a matter of fact, I realize the task force's resources are limited, but Again, I would strongly recommend that the task force create a technology committee to work with the Department of Technology and the Committee on Information Technology. They can use the task force as a resource and vice versa. In terms of determining what's doable, they can provide some sound advice, and obviously there are budgetary considerations too. But yeah, there needs to be, I think, a stronger, more frequent, more regular interfacing among the three agencies: the task force, COIT, and DT.
I'm wondering. I'm sorry.
No, finish your
on this one. I'm wondering if there's a more programmatic solution to this. I'm worried if we create another committee, it'll be hard to staff with task force members, and it might be hard to staff with members from other departments and commissions and everything. I'm wondering if there's something that might be included within this amendment that provides more of a provision for enforcing.
Couple of things, couple of possible suggestions. Number one, again, create a staff position of Director of Information Technology, or you could direct that the Department of Technology assign a full-time staff member to the task to work with the task force. There are ways to do this. I would have liked to see 2 of the seats on the task force reserved for people from the who have knowledge and or experience in information technology, but particularly since EFF has declined a nominator's role, I'm not sure that that's going to be doable.
I wonder if some of the civic organizations focused on this, like Code for America, or some of the other ones, might be interesting partners.
Possibly. There are a number of them out there. I know there is some deep concern about Code for America.
It's just a name that came to mind about.
No, I named there. As a matter of fact, the executive director of EFF suggested that Code for America might be very good in that role. But there is, within the steering committee of San Franciscans for Sunshine, there are concerns about the history and makeup of Code for America. So
that's fine.
But I agree that maybe we could find some other organization out there that would fill the bill, and I'd like to see it happen.
Yeah. Sorry, what's the procedure again for open? Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure we get more comments in. What's the procedure for comments on this type of?
I would suggest respectfully that you finish questioning me, you invite anybody else up you want to comment, and then you throw it open for public comment.
Okay.
That's my respectful suggestion. You're the chair. I'm not going to try and dictate.
Okay.
So could I finish my comments to Rick?
If it's related to Rick, sure.
So as to the last question, I think, and I'm going to read more carefully your proposed section 67.31, minimum standards, electronic records, computer systems, web postings. I think that really addresses, or should address, how technology relates to records and meetings, probably records more so. But I think that may answer part of it.
I don't think it's nearly as much as what I'm imagining.
Well, that's a possible place for lodging that. I'm thinking of this in terms of sort of 4 buckets, and I'm sure there are lots of ways to slice and dice it. The first in my mind would be workable fixes, language that is not clear, could be more clear, experience of the task force and others to just fix things that can be fixed that are relatively non-controversial. The second would be substantial improvements where you've got a proposal to require, for example, 48 hours in advance for documents at a meeting or other types of things that really are an advance in terms of the requirement with varying degrees of burden on the city to comply. The third is things that I think would be more difficult or perhaps extremely difficult for the city generally or various departments. The idea of putting sort of everything out there at all times seems on its face like a good idea, but in my mind isn't workable in that way. It would need for me to be a little more specific in terms of making that work. And then the fourth is just a general distrust that I see through the document of the Board of Supervisors and the mayor, some of which is, I think, appropriately warranted given the history with those entities, but perhaps goes a little too far, and I think that's an issue to look at, is how much power is properly vested with the mayor and the board.
As a matter of fact, we have already explored that with certain legal authorities, and we are assured that what we propose here in 67.30A would pass legal muster.
I'm not questioning that.
And sir, as Mr. Pilpel, as far as your four-bucket proposal, if we had more time on this, yeah, good idea, but we don't. We are under a tight timeline.
Well, I just offered those thoughts to you.
Thank you.
Mr. Grossman. Thank you.
You know, I sent a memo around first thing this morning. Of course, we only received the material last Friday under the 72-hour rule, so some of us didn't have really a chance to do much with it. But I don't know if you saw this 3-page memo. If you did, you will understand that the issues of who's on the task force and some that Mr. Pilpel just raised, and even the one that you have in mind, pale next to the problem of what's the plan to get this on the ballot, and what's the plan to defend it, because we know it's going to be attacked, as was Prop G in 1999, including the then City Attorney Louise Rennie. Much of my memo is devoted to the problem that some of the things that they would like to do, this group would like to do, require a charter amendment, not an amendment to the ordinance. It would require that the ordinance become a separate chapter or article in the charter. And in order to do that, you need either 6 supervisors or, I don't know, 100 and some thousand signatures?
About 46,000 valid signatures. Well, I can give you the exact
46,000 for a charter amendment?
Yeah,
Second.
it's something like that.
43,280.
For a charter?
Valid, yeah. So
Okay,
it would
well,
be
that's
more than
good.
that,
That's
yeah.
good news, because when I was at the meeting, I understood that there was a higher requirement than that to get the revised ordinance into the charter, some 100 and some thousand signatures. But that's still a pretty daunting challenge, particularly with the time that's been allotted. The problem for me is I was one of those who worked in 2012, and there were probably 18 or 20 meetings at which the language that is now the basis for this current version was worked out. But it did not include material or provisions that would have required it go on the charter. It was really a makeover of the ordinance as an ordinance rather than as a charter amendment. So in my memo, I tried to explain how this exists. There's not a lot of time. You don't have the same dedicated group that we had then, because I think there were, between Erica Craven and myself, you had 2 lawyers. You had, I think Doug was very important in it, but all of us had a lot of experience, not just before the task force or serving on it, I never did, but dealing with the issues that came up in the course of looking at the ordinance and what did it mean. And you've got a good example today. Section, 6725A is pretty clear on what you have to do to get an immediate disclosure request honored. Well, maybe he didn't use the right approach because that's not what they understood. But somebody in the task force could suggest that you have a form for an immediate disclosure request that would satisfy all the requirements. Anyway, there's a lot of small stuff, but the big issues are dealing with the city attorney, who is extremely hostile to the task force, and it's gotten just worse. And then the clerk of the Board of Supervisors, who assigns the administrator. And that's why the proposal is that those two officials get out of it. And that it's the task force responsibility to hire its own lawyer and its own staffing, and so it needs its own budget. And if you put that in an ordinance, you know what's going to happen with the soups. They're going to give you zilch. So it has to be stated clearly that this is a requirement that they cannot change. So there are a number of those issues. But the big problem for me is the plan. I mean, I've talked to Allison a lot about what she says, what comes first. I said, what comes first? Do we have the plan and then raise the money to support it? Or do we have the revision ready so that you can raise the money and support it? And that, to me, is a big deal. And I don't see it happening. I mean, the group that's behind it with Rick and Bruce and some of the other former advocates is very serious and very sincere. But they have very little time to get this thing off the ground, and they need a lot of help. And I'm not seeing where the help is coming from. I think, for example, I'll be done in a second. The way it was presented as part of the agenda, it was almost unreadable. The 58 pages or so that were in a PDF, single-spaced, all these underlinings, and no way to really parse through and see what the changes were without either, spending a ton of time. So I think that there's a misconception on the facility to get this done. I think what you need to have is something in stone that you can live with and then see if it works out. Because the last time in 2012, we worked our butts off. And we go down to the elections department to file, and for some reason we couldn't get it filed. Allison may remember. We couldn't get the soups to support it. Anyway, that's basically what I'm saying. And in my memo, I talk about a couple of things that I think could be fixed. So if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to stay.
Can we just review what the time crunch is why is it that these particular changes need to happen in the next 6 months versus a future
Well, they want
election?
to get it on the ballot in November.
That's the goal, but if that doesn't happen, that's not the end of all of this. That pushes
It's not
it back.
the end of it. It shouldn't be. In fact, my view would be that let's do it right take our time, see what, it is, and then after the soups get elected in November, they may be more willing to sign on to it, particularly if a couple more progressives get elected. So, this push to get it in on the November ballot, which itself is going to be huge, I don't see it. I don't have the time to do it, and as I did the last time, I probably spent a couple of hundred hours on it, and I just don't know who's going to be able to. Thanks.
Oh, I just wanted to say that the reason that we're looking at the November ballot is because we've decided that in all likelihood, we've been keeping our options open. Charter amendment, ordinance, initiative with gathering signatures versus getting supervisors to sign on. We've been talking about all of this. But the reason for November is because the number of signatures that would be required depends on the number of people who voted in the previous election, and the turnout was, lower, so we don't need as many signatures as we would if we wait till after November.
I understand that.
And we also think having a high turnout election would
Someone turn off the phone.
that having a high turnout election would make the ordinance or charter amendment or whatever more likely to pass. It's in the small turnout elections where there's less interest, where there are fewer ballot measures, where there would be more opportunity for the opposition to try to defeat what we have on the ballot.
You can try. I don't think you're going to get as good a product as you would hope to, and I'm not sure whether you would be successful because the mayor and Herrera and all of them are going to be very unhappy about what you want to do. And you're going to need a war chest to deal with that.
Yeah.
First of all, can someone turn off that phone?
It's actually my phone.
Great. We'll feel so much better.
Robert's rules of order, right? No phone.
67A.
I'm Bruce Brugman, and I was heavily involved.
Oh, excuse me. I think
all-
Member
I had
Pilpel had a
couple
question
questions.
You
for
had questions?
For Alan.
For Alan.
Okay, fine.
If
I
I may.
didn't realize that.
But I do want to hear from you, Bruce. You know that. So I'm not sure if it's the air in the room or something, but I actually agree with much of what Mr. Grossman said. Your memo that you referred to, do we have a copy of that yet?
I sent it this morning, and I asked that it be distributed to you. I sent it around 10 o'clock this morning.
If we don't have it right now, we will, and I'm very interested in reading that. As I said, I agree with much of what you said. I think that this is pretty complicated to begin with,
Yeah.
and I don't know when's the appropriate time. I guess now's as good a time as any. I had heard after the defeat of Proposition E last year that there was, and Allison, you'll be interested in this, that there was some interest among some factions in the city in not enacting all of its provisions because, as I think we pretty much agree, all of its provisions were somewhat unworkable, but that some of its provisions, and I think Rick talked about that, like the live streaming of meetings in City Hall, that these folks actually wanted to make some of that happen. I think that's generally to the good, and there was some analysis of costs and whatnot, some of which I think the controller was involved in as part of the ballot measure analysis. And so I had understood, perhaps inaccurately, that there might be discussions at the Board of Supervisors early this year about the possibility of making some amendments and putting that on the ballot. That hasn't happened yet, to my knowledge, and that may all have changed with the election of Supervisor Peskin. So there are these things in the works. although I support making some changes, both the fixes and some more substantial things, some of which we may agree and disagree about. I'm concerned that if anything gets on the ballot and somehow has a huge price tag associated with it, whether it's $3 million, $5 million, $10 million to implement, that's going to sink the thing and perhaps bury the issue for another generation or half a generation, and I think that would be bad. So I think that this does need both a substantive look at the text to do things that make sense, but really also a strategic and political look at what makes sense in terms of how to get it on and get it passed. You're very popular tonight. And I would, and this also may sound unusual coming from me, I would not discount the views of anyone in this process, whether they be, extremely pro or extremely anti-sunshine, or I also wouldn't want to characterize this as being a liberal conservative thing, because I think it's not. I think this is very much about having government be open and accountable, and I think one could make the argument that this mayor, as in past mayors, have made it difficult for people to get information. So I don't know that we're in radical disagreement on some of this.
I just wanted to mention one thing to give you an idea of the type of opposition you have. I filed a records request with the Ethics Commission for copies of records that were involved in the preparation of their regulations that were adopted ultimately for handling referrals from the task force. All about public records, all about the laws that involve public records, okay? The executive director refused to turn over any communications they had with the city attorney, even though there's a clear exception in the ordinance for those types of communications and the attorney-client privilege. Ultimately, I had to sue in the Superior Court. Judge Goldsmith said I was entitled to the records. The city appealed to the Court of Appeal, and my lawyer, a very, very good lawyer, was excoriated by the panel for even suggesting that we were entitled to those records. We tried to get the California Supreme Court to hear the matter, but at the time they were shifting from, I think 3 of the justices were leaving and they were replaced by 3 others. This took the better part of a year and a half, and it took a lot of effort, and it took a lot out of me, actually. But it shows the extent, which means now that the city attorney could communicate with any department, and it's secret, okay, about a public record request. It's happened to me, because I've made a request, and they refused to turn over the communications with the city attorney. But the point I'm trying to make is, if you think that you're going to take on the establishment, and somehow power your way through, it's going to be very, very difficult. And this, the political attitude, I think is the best way to say it, is so negative on sunshine that you have to fight your way through for the simplest requests, and I know from experience. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Hear from Bruce?
Mr. Brugman?
I'm Bruce Brugman, the former editor and publisher of The Guardian. Alan, do you have a copy of that letter? I didn't get a copy of it. Where did it go?
What I just
Did you send it to, who'd you send it to?
sent it to
Should be up on a website, immediately for everyone.
I did just check the email. It was sent to the Sunshine Task Force at approximately 10 a.m. this morning, but I did not check the email prior to this meeting.
Well, I sure would have liked to have gotten a copy as a member of the steering committee of the group that's putting this up. Did you get a copy, Allison?
I did, and I should have sent it around. I was busy with my day job.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, that's all right. I understand. But it's too bad that this comes in this way. I just explained, Bruce Bergman, I'm former editor and publisher of The Guardian, and we were heavily involved in the original Sunshine Task Force Ordinance and so forth. And we were...
Prop G. And Prop G.
Jesus. I'm sorry. It's probably my wife. So I'm very familiar with how it got started, and all the way through I followed it very closely. Alan mentions powering it through the power structure. That's exactly what we did back in the beginning. And we got some good people behind it, Angela Aliotto, Kevin Shelley, the liberals on the board, and we got a majority, and we got Frank Jordan as the mayor to sign it, even though he was a fairly conservative mayor, and it wasn't necessarily something that he wanted to do. Later, when it was clear that we needed to get some more strengthening amendments, we put together a Sunshine Initiative, San Franciscans for Sunshine. Rick Nee was involved, Doug Comstock was involved, I was involved, and we put it through against the interests and the policies of the mayor, Willie Brown, who did everything he could behind the scenes to stop it and to put the word out to the Democratic clubs to stop it. But we went right ahead and we did it, and the people of San Francisco voted for Sunshine. That's what Angela Aliotto always said, San Franciscans will vote for Sunshine. So we're used to this. Furthermore, Rick and I and Doug Comstock were involved in 2 public power measures going up against the real establishment in town, which is PG&E and all of their allies. We damn near won the first time out. We have some experience with this. But what Alan wants to do, and I'm sorry he got into this because it complicates better, he thinks that we should do this with a charter amendment. That's fine. But right now, the charter amendment would involve a huge number of signatures. Doug Comstock suggests something around 43,000 signatures, $2 a signature.
You said 100.
And an expense. I'm sorry.
You said 143,000.
43,000.
Okay. It was the number. Okay.
43,000, plus an expensive campaign, probably $250,000 to $300,000, which none of us have. So the decision was made to, instead of doing a charter amendment, to do an amendment to the ordinance, which is much cheaper and easier. It would involve about 9,500 signatures, which we could get. And a more inexpensive campaign, which we're prepared to do. And we're used to doing it. Doug and I stood in the corner at Market Street, and it's where the old Josie's juice joint was. We raised, we got a lot of signatures, and we went out and we got the signatures. I call it Comstock Corner because we stood there Saturday after Saturday, weekend after weekend getting it. We know how to do this. We've done it before. We can do it again. The reason we chose this election was because it's a presidential election. Guess what happens in a presidential election? A lot of people come out to vote. This is a damn important vote. The Supreme Court is now up there. This will fall right in line, in a sense, with the issues that are being raised here. Sunshine in San Francisco. This is the first ordinance of its kind. It's the best ordinance of its kind in the country. What we're trying to do is strengthen it, and we can do it. And we plan to do it, and we have a committee working on it, and we hope Alan Grossman will help work on it. But it's not helpful to make these suggestions at this particular time. We will have plenty of legal help. We have, for example, Peter Scheer at the California First Amendment Coalition, Terry Frank at Cal Aware, the two key attorneys from the California Newspaper Publishers Association, namely Tom Newton, the executive director, and Jim Ewert, their chief lobbyist. We'll have some of the attorneys that are on the FAC board. For example, Tom Burke, who wrote several of the provisions directly last time around. He was our corporate attorney and a big help to us at The Guardian. He's available. Other attorneys are available. We will have what we need here to get out the amendments and the reforms that we feel are necessary that are laid out here. I think this is a very good document. Very well done, and it's been gestating now for years. 2004, I remember appearing before the Rules Committee in 2004 on it. Matt Gonzalez should have been a friend of Sunshine. He wasn't a friend of Sunshine at that point. And he made it real clear with the cold water he put on our proposal that it was going to be a real struggle. That's why we don't want to go to the board and get them to sign off on it. Because we've been through that process before. Anybody in the board gets a hold of it, and they want to do this, they want to do that, let's water it down, let's do this, let's do that. It becomes a shuffled deck. It just doesn't work. We wanted to come in as we did before. We wanted to come before the Sunshine Task Force. We wanted to make a presentation. We wanted their input. David Pilpel, good to see you, David, after all these years. Good to see you still here. David was chairman of the Sunshine Task Force at the time that we did this in 2009.
No, 1999.
Excuse me, 1999. And David held, I don't know, how many hearings did you hold?
Several.
I mean, it was several, right? Mm-hmm. You know, we went issue after issue after, you went through the whole thing. And it was very helpful. People got a lot of information from the task force. They came, they saw, they conquered in a sense. But that's what happened then. And that's what we hoped would happen now. We would start here, and then we go to the task force, and they could have input and so forth, and we would be ready to go. And we will be ready to go. We will have a good, solid ordinance here, backed up by some good reasoning and some good minds and some good attorney help, and we'll see how it falls. Nobody knows exactly what's going to happen in a San Francisco election, but I assure you, Rick Nee and Doug Comstock and I know how to do this stuff. We've done it before. We can do it again. And we've got a lot of soldiers out there just pawing the turf and ready to go. That's what we plan to do. Now, obviously, I can go on and on. I don't want to go on and on. But I just wanted to let you know that we are prepared and we'll be able to do it. It's not easy doing these things. Imagine going up against PG&E, and they beat us by just a few votes. And the next day, a few days later, the tops of the ballot boxes were floating up in Bodega Bay. We were going to put a diver down near the ferry building and see if we could find the votes that beat us that Willie Brown put there. You know, it goes on and on and on. We're veterans.
Clean power is here now, right?
Maybe. Well, clean power is just one little thing, but PG&E is here with an illegal private power company, which I wish we were really working on, but we're not. That's another issue. We'll let David Pilpel handle that in his spare time. So I'll just see if you have any questions now. And
thank you for
I'll
all
stop.
of that. I mean,
I'll stop already.
Between our chair being involved with this and so many former members who have involved this creation, I mean, I was personally asking Alan Grossman for his perspective. I don't have a strong perspective based on my lack of information. And I'm interested in talking about this with the full task force and then going from there, which is... Sure. When's the next meeting again?
See, the idea is to make a presentation with the task force, year 3. And then the full task force is 11. Hopefully they're all there. And you can continue on. And this document will be available. We'll put it up online. People can look at it. The Chronicle can take a look at it. Everybody can take a look at it. It can be reported on or not. But it'll be available. It's available right now.
Great.
It's available up on your link. I went up and looked at it.
I finally printed it out, actually.
And so then, just to spell this out right now, how would the task force proceed after we meet in full? Would we vote on endorsing this and then engage with anything else further? Like, how do you guys see this unfolding? I haven't been totally clear on that part. Like, besides listening to it, sort of discussing the ideas, like, how would we be involved ahead of the election?
You mean in terms of input?
everything.
You want to be a contributor to the campaign?
I mean,
Is that what you're,
I'm not
that's,
sure
is
if
that
I
what
should-
you're begging
I'm not-
to do?
I'm not sure if I should be talking
just
about
kidding.
that in
I'm
this
just
venue, but maybe afterwards.
Well, it'll be available for inspection. We'll have a website. It'll be there, and you can comment. There are deadlines for these things. I mean, we're going to have it, glued in and nailed down by a certain point.
Is there any, should we maybe try to talk about this over email with other members of the
Oh, no.
committee? No, we're not allowed to do that?
Careful.
No, we can't do that, no. But we can talk about it here right now, since it's on the agenda.
So let me be more specific on that last question. By when do you want comments now on this draft? You want them soon?
Well, I want them, me personally, I'd like to have them now. I'd like to have them later. I'd like to have as many as possible.
By when do you anticipate putting to bed the text so that you can file if that's the process that you're going with?
Rick, are you the major domo on that? How do you see that?
I believe we have to have it into the city attorney's office and/or the Department of Elections by mid-March. Member Washburn, is that your recollection?
March 16th.
My understanding is that there's no specific deadline. If you work backwards, if you're doing it by petition.
There is a specific deadline.
Okay, well, working backwards, if you're going for November, the signatures have to be in by around July 4th, depending on how much time you want
July
for signatures.
11th. July 11th.
Maybe it's a little later this year. And they usually take about 2 weeks to prepare title and summary, and then you have to publish. So it's like 2 weeks up front, July 11th, and depends on how much time you want to allocate for signature gathering. That's my understanding. So, whenever you file, that, sort of starts the formal process rolling.
Well, Member Washburn, I believe you said March 16 we have to have it in the city attorney?
I'm trying to figure out where that came from, where that deadline came from. So in order, and I'm going to have to defer to you because
Perhaps Mr. Comstock could enlighten us.
Yes, Doug, could you help us out here? So we need to have a petition ready. What do we have to have for that petition?
Doug Comstock. What we need to do is in order to collect the 9,000 signatures, we probably are going to need a week for each 1,000 signatures, we figure, because it's a volunteer effort. So if that is the case, and we have to have the signatures turned in by July 11th, then we will need at least 3 weeks, or 2.5 months, so March, April, May, June. I figure if we can get it in by the mid-March or by the end of March, we can collect signatures. Some of them would have to be paid at that time probably, but because we'll need to collect about 12,000 signatures because the Donald Ducks and those kind of people who sign. But and just to be safe, I think we'll have end of March to have the final version. And let me just say about the text, almost word for word of this has already been approved by the task force officially for submission in 2012. There have been a few changes since then, and you can do a search from the original document and with this document, and you'll see that there are only 2 or 3 changes that have been made. And that's just because most of it is coming from the appointing authority. And that was a major problem that the task force had to overcome and still has to overcome. And this may not be the perfect solution. I agree with Alan that it would be great if we had the time and the money for us to go ahead with the charter, but we can't, not at this time. This is like a baby step, perhaps, towards getting the task force into good shape, but it's not the final solution.
I think Rick actually had a suggestion that I think is excellent, is that we go for the ordinance in November, and then within 2 years' time, go for a charter amendment. And the idea being that the public will be familiar with what we've done, and then I think would be an easy sell to the public. So, okay, it belongs in the charter. It's critical issues for us governing ourselves. This is where it belongs. And then I think we would have time to put together a plan and get funding like Alan would like to see.
Yeah, I agree.
So I thought that was a brilliant
I agree. But
idea that Rick had.
Just a little bit of history. When we went in 2012 with this product to get 4 supervisors to support us, we ran into a problem. The city attorney came up with this idea that from now on, the amendment could be amended by the Board of Supervisors with, if it was unanimously approved by the task force, and that it was approved by 2/3 majority of the supervisors. This was what they wanted to put in the very last minute, the last day when we were turning it in. And I was in that room with in the supervisors' chambers when the city attorney came in with this idea, and I thought it sounded reasonable. I thought it sounded okay, so I agreed. And then when I walked out of that room, the San Franciscans for Sunshine were all over me that this was absolutely
You're
not
still
what
alive?
they wanted, and I'm still alive.
Wow.
But so that is not in this.
No, it's not.
No, it is not. Probably the main problem we're going to have is with the 3-minute requirement, that people who trundle down here to City Hall to sit through hours and hours should have 3 minutes to say what's on their mind, rather than the 1 minute that is frequently allowed, or 2 minutes that various boards and commissions allow.
So I've got no problem with that. That I'm totally fine with. I think it should be a minimum of 3 minutes, and I think that's great. 2 observations. If it doesn't make it on this year's ballot, unless there's a charter amendment this November, there is no scheduled election in 2017 because of a prior charter amendment that changed the terms of the city attorney and others. So we will go, and I'm very frustrated about this. This is something we really ought to fix. We will go from November of 2016 all the way to June of 2018, which seems like an eternity. It's like 19 months, it's ridiculous, before the next scheduled election. And to call a special election for this or anything else is very difficult. And so that's in part why there's a charter amendment working to elect the electeds and all of that. It's another issue of power in this building. But so that's why I suspect your time frame is to try to hit it for this year so that we're all still alive, because if it waits another year and a half after that, that's almost an eternity around here. And lots of bad deals and other things can happen in that time frame. So my other question, is there already a website for San Franciscans for Sunshine? And if not, or either way, could you post the text of this as a doc there? Because right now all we have it is a PDF, and some of us might like to get into it as a Word document.
Unfortunately, the San Franciscans for Sunshine does not have a treasurer, so we cannot file with the Ethics Commission.
Not even Rick? It's past.
We don't have a treasurer, so we can't file with the Ethics Commission, so we can't have a website yet.
But you're working on it.
But we are working on it.
Okay.
The name has been reserved. SanFranciscansForSunshine.com is our name, but we don't have a website up yet.
And in the meantime, does somebody have it as a Word doc, and is it available?
I have it as a Word doc. It's in Google Doc, and so the thing becomes how to maximize the amount of input we receive, and then to be able to then edit a document so that we have one document.
Yeah.
So I'm almost thinking that maybe what should be out there is our PDFs and comment. I know that's not a great way to do it. I know people but there would have to be some constraints, like you better put your name on your own Word document. Yeah. Something like that. We could, because I know I prefer working on Word documents and track changes and comments. But we could, specify that people name their version, and nobody's mucking with the original one.
I think we can do a lock version in Google Docs, but we can direct them to the document through the website, and I will be getting that up soon. I just I don't want to. I can't spend $1,000, as you know, without being a committee.
And future versions should probably have like the date or the version number or something, so that you maintain version control.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm very interested in this,
David.
and I'd love to see the doc version.
The sort of big picture thing that comes to my mind in looking at all of this is that you guys are essentially packing in a kitchen sink of changes that have accumulated over the last 10 years or more, 12 years.
Yes.
And that's totally understandable, but I mean, just given the way local elections work, it seems like the more new things are added into each ballot measure, the more reasons people can latch onto to attack it with.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wonder if that could be an issue with the number of changes that people who are opposed to it can essentially pick and choose a bunch of issues to divide potential voters on, and that you guys, I don't know if there's an opportunity to focus on the things you think are most pressing and make that the focus, but I'm just thinking out loud, wondering how you guys are approaching that kind of
I
question.
understand. We've had several discussions about that, but unfortunately, the only way to amend the Sunshine is with the voters, and we're just going to have to trust that the voters have the intelligence to do that.
Well, one thing that a purpose for the league and also for the task force too, if the task force as a body approves the final version, which I hope they will, is to then educate the public about this. And so, I mean, right now I have 2 pages of bulleted items from the 2012 version. So we'll need to come up with some, main themes and some way to structure the changes so that they're graspable. And then the league is planning to, because we do this is part of our job, to educate the public about ballot measures. I mean, this is our focus. Would be to develop materials to present at all kinds of bodies and be out there with other allied organizations. So once the ballot gets on the initiative gets on the ballot, then we start, or even before, start educating the public about it so that it's clear that this is a great idea.
I mean, if you guys had to summarize what the changes are in, say, one sentence, what would they be?
It's housekeeping.
Oh, I think it's more than that.
It's just housekeeping.
But what's the lead sentence, right, of this is on the ballot because to someone who's totally unfamiliar with the issues and maybe the task force itself, which is going to be the average voter, and they're going to be hearing, alternative interpretations from people who don't want it to pass.
Well, there are simple things. There's grammatical changes.
Right.
There are things that are not substantive. There are housekeeping items. There's moving some parts of it around to places where it makes more sense, so that it's easier to read and everything is all in one place. And then there are the substantive issues which are outlined as you see, and who is to say what isn't important or what is important?
Well, I mean, I think just in terms of marketing this to voters, that will have to be figured out.
Well, what I tell people, what I had to tell the league because they wanted to know why they should get involved in this again, was that this clarifies areas in the ordinance that have been unclear, and that it strengthens the ordinance in a way to improve public access to records and access to public meetings.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we could say it in a, catchier way, but it's basically, that's what we're trying to do.
Clean up for government cleanup.
There you go. polish the windows so you can see out of them more easily.
In the meantime, is it possible to just send Victor a copy of the current version and then just call it current version
The Word
as a doc?
document?
Yeah.
Sure.
That would be great. And I think just to keep us all clear, we should ask for a written memo from Jerry Threet about what actions we can take and can't take regarding this. So whether it's conversation over email, whether or not we can endorse what we can do outside, et cetera, we should be very clear on what we can and can't do, because I don't want to do anything wrong. I don't think any of us want to, and I don't want the task force to be at issue. I would like the substantive provisions of the law to be the matter of public debate.
Well, and also, I mean,
And I
it's
think,
like,
Doug, and
once we
I
talk
think you
about this at the March meeting, the next full task force meeting, like, there's not very much time for you guys to turn around and do anything with it. So, like, that meeting basically has to be where we talk about it and where we finalize any involvement of the task force, right? Otherwise, you guys will be delayed from the timeline you need to get the signatures.
Unless we hold a special meeting just to talk about it, which is what we did in the past. So that's another option.
That might be a good idea, a special meeting.
Because I'm worried that, like, you know, we hit the March meeting and it goes on for like four or 5 hours for other stuff, and then we have like no time to work on this, and we can't come to an agreement or resolution or whatever, and then we have to wait until April or something. So I feel like we need to.
I mean, maybe we should poll members now to see who's available for a special meeting sometime in the next month to just talk about this.
Let me just make a suggestion. Since David Pilpel goes on forever in this tenured position that he's got here on the task force, I suggest you do what we did then, which was we brought it to the task force, and David was the chairman, and he had. How many hearings did you hold, David?
I'd have to go back and check. It was
Well, I mean, it was you know, you did several, and you did some after, you know, what was on the ballot. I mean, you kept it going.
Just for information purposes.
For information purposes,
which
and
we can do.
it was very, very helpful, and people came, and, you know, David was running an educational marketing program, even though he didn't know it. So you have
naive of me.
Give him a little promo, but you have a precedent here for how to do this, and you have actually the guy who did it. And the task force didn't take a position. Their position was they listened, and it was presented to them, and they flushed out the issues, and people came on both sides, and that was that. So that is one way to look at how to do it.
I mean, I think among other things, advocates can advocate however they want, get anything on the ballot. If you can get it passed, great, that's fine. I think whatever the language is, it needs to be workable, because if we have to interpret it, if other city departments interpret it, if we want to take issue with the Good Government Guide, et cetera, I think we just have to have language that works. Whether you like it or not, that's up to the advocates, but it's got to work. And so some of the spaghetti that we
work in what sense?
That it's got to be readable and reasonably understood. I mean, I think a lot of the hearings that we have here are because people have difficulty with some of the provisions, not necessarily the substantive provisions, but the language in what's there now. Yeah. So I think we should just be careful to get good language. That's all. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just...
E.B. Strong's Elements of Style. We'll start right there.
Yeah.
But don't forget, David, there's a there's a ballot simplification committee.
Yeah.
And that's their job.
Well, that's to summarize the measure for the voters. I'm just saying that the actual language, you know, if there's a word missing or something that could be misinterpreted, I think we want to minimize that and have it to be very readable. And I appreciate the moves that Doug talked about to move things around so that they're in the right place. I mean, there are provisions now about litigation that are in 67.8, they're in 67.12, they're all over the place. And you fix that.
I don't know whether any of you have gone back and read the ordinance from beginning to end. I mean, it's a jumble.
So making it better is a goal.
Or two.
Yeah. You know a bit about editing. You've done some of that in your
time. I'd love to go through and edit it. Boom.
All right. Anyway.
Right. We definitely want clarification. Yeah. That's been there from Erica Craven Green's day. I mean, a lot of this is just wordsmithing to make things clear for people who work in this building, so they know how to comply with it.
So the next steps, it sounds like, are, when is the March meeting again?
March 3rd.
March 3rd. So we'll talk about it then. It sounds like we could try to do a special committee before then.
No, special meeting, I think, after.
Okay, so but that would have to be within a week or two of that meeting.
Could we
in
poll
order for
people
us
and
to
see if people are available? I mean, we may not have a special, but at least we should find out if we could get the 9 of us in a room.
I mean, we have to get through the entire thing and like be done with our part of this just as part of our
ASAP,
job.
yeah.
And so like if that doesn't happen on March 3rd, it has to happen with a special meeting, or else I guess what happens? We rubber stamp everything you guys have without a careful look? There's no like sort of legal or there's no actual ramification for us just sort of drifting while you guys move forward, is there? I mean, is there...
Legally, no.
There's no action item that has to happen. It's just that we need, it's simply a matter of us saying that we read through it, had some suggestions, they incorporated the suggestions, it looked good, and then you guys go off and do the campaign, right?
Yeah.
And what would be nice is if the task force would, after vetting it, having some input into it, hearing from members of the public, attorneys would then ideally approve it.
Assuming that we can, and
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
assuming that we can.
Well, but that, you guys in 1999, you guys
believe you-
approved, right?
That again is why I think we need an opinion from the city attorney on what we can and can't do. I'm assuming that we can. I hope I'm right.
Wait, but when you were the chair before, we did not approve it.
I don't think we did.
No, you didn't, David. You
Right.
just had, in fact, I kept asking you, what the hell is going on, David? We keep having another hearing. And, you know, I don't know whether you knew what you were doing, but in a way it was.
I'd like to think so, but I'm not sure.
But I think that you were wanted to give it as much airing and sunlight as possible, and I think you did. I don't know whether you did it knowingly or not, but you didn't call for a vote.
Right.
And I remember Ross Mercarimi was running our campaign. He did a brilliant job of running the campaign. And I said to him, Ross, do you want David to do anything? He said, no. He said, just let it go. He's doing a good job. He's getting the stuff out. That's good. And I don't know.
He didn't twist my arm.
No,
I
nobody,
shouldn't make those jokes.
David, nobody twisted your arm, did they?
Never mind. It was. Sorry.
Anyway, that's one way to do it. Because the last thing that we would want, you know, in promoting this to help improve the ordinance and the task force, is to have the sitting task force go out, say no, go up against it.
And
that would not
and
be
again,
helpful.
I don't want to dwell on this too much, but the thing about workable language, I'm sure there are people inside this building and others in various communities that aren't going to like it. We understand that. I'd prefer that they don't like it because they've got issues with the substantive provision, not on how it's drafted. And I'm not sure that we want to make a big deal with the commission secretaries and the department heads and all that, because they will largely not like the things that are in here. But at the same time, I think the provisions need to be workable. So the 48-hour thing and where documents are before meetings and what's posted online, it just needs to be workable. That's all I'm cautioning about.
What they were saying, I was not directly involved in that event a few years ago, was that the city hall, the supervisors got a hold of it, and they had a million different suggestions, and they couldn't go. And this is the first I heard about how the city attorney came in and put in a provision that would have been one of the great red herrings of all time. It would not have been workable. And there it was, like a flopper.
A flopper?
Well, a fish, that flops and smells and so forth. That's the danger.
I miss you on this body, Bruce. I really do.
Well, I'm happy to come back and appear anytime.
Okay.
Not really. Don't have to worry. You only hear me once every now and then.
Gene won't want you to say that. You know, we can't go to Manor Coffee Shop anymore. We got to meet here.
Anyway, I hope this has been enlightening for you, and I think you got a little of the. The drama behind this and behind it, and we really are. Yeah. There's a lot of people out there, that are really interested in sunshine. We now have the best and the brightest sunshine ordinance in the country, if not in the world. San Francisco, foggy San Francisco, has a reputation for sunshine all over the world. And the reason I know that is because I'm involved in 2 or 3 international free press organizations, and they always said, how'd you get this through in San Francisco? Send us a copy of it. We want to do this. In Rio de Janeiro, we want to do this. And, it's a famous thing. This is a historic thing that we're taking on here. You guys, people, you folks are involved in it, whether you want to be or not, because you're our sitting representatives.
So I think I asked before if we can get the doc version. That'll happen. I think when this is before the full task force, and we should, I think, poll members and see who's available, and then you can decide if we'll do it at the regular or special. Either way, I don't care. It would be great if the group could do some other kind of summary that's not so much legalese, but maybe like a top 10 list of changes. Like, what does this really mean? Not the.
David, have you seen the document? You have it?
Yeah.
Look on page 2 and 3 there.
Yeah, but
that's a start.
A lot more than 10 bullet points.
They're bulleted. Yeah, there you go. That's it.
So, I mean, David,
it just seemed,
I totally understand what you're saying, and once we get to that
and I don't
point,
mean that
I
as
won't
an
be chair,
advocacy
so
piece, just
I won't
as an informational piece. I mean,
Yeah.
if
Oh,
someone
sure.
asked me what are the top 10 changes here, I would have trouble summarizing it down to 10.
You'd have 22, or how many there are there. No, your points are good. And we have to do that anyway in terms of a campaign brochure, in terms of what we put up. So it's just a matter of doing it.
my main concern is that I want us to not hinder you guys working on this, because I don't think, so I would be worried, like, there's sort of infinite revisions you can do as an editor to make the language better, right? And I don't know where to draw the line on that sort of thing.
Well, we can do that. I can't technically do it. I'm a typewriter guy. I was the fastest rewrite man in Milwaukee when I was on the Milwaukee Journal, known as the fastest in town. But I can't. I'm hopeless and helpless on the computer.
I'm sure
everybody who
reads
reads my stuff thinks I'm dyslexic.
I'm sure you'd be.
But I've got 2 good guys here. They've got more people. We can do it.
Well, so I just want to make sure that, essentially in less than a month, we review this and we give our feedback and we sign off on it if we can, or we ignore it if we're not allowed to sign off on it, and we answer the question of whether or not we can sign off of it. So that when you guys are going out and getting petitions, it's totally moved on from here, besides maybe us doing an informational hearing or something.
And there is a pill principle, and I've got a corner for him to collect signatures. I'll let him know later.
Excellent.
Anyway, thanks.
Thank you very much.
I haven't been back here for a long time, and I'm glad to
feel free anytime.
See this is getting a little action here.
We're open for business and happy to have you.
Thank you very much.
So we have to have public comment.
Public comment?
Good evening. My name is Sylvia Johnson. I think this can be readable, and some might be some words that need to be put in there, but a few small words that kind of makes sense to the sentence that we have things that we was working on in our history, and when it used to make a world, it takes a long time to get everything function, and usually things start making sense, for a better manner, for our other better things that and more money is also represented that progress too. So I think that a lot of things have been really misunderstood, and because of things that probably you not be able to explain because of some kind of technical matter. I hope that you can hear me and listen to me well, because this is real serious when we look at another part of our lives that has never been explained. And we need to study on this. A lot of things, when I met somebody that didn't even know how to dance, which That's part of the birds and bees. And we haven't used that.
Can you stay focused on the topic?
And the topic is that when we got a plan, let's use these folks work really hard for, that it's a whole lot better because they got it.
Thank you.
Good.
There's no additional public comment. I believe you can either continue this item to the call of the chair, or
you could move
this
to
item
refer it to the full task force.
It's already on there, though.
It's already on the agenda.
Okay.
So
Victor,
there's no action needed at this time, as this is, I guess we, sorry, we can take a motion to continue this matter to the call of the chair. If it does need to come back to committee, otherwise it won't come back. It'll be scheduled before the task force. Or you can refer this to the...
I would just move to refer to the full task force, because that's where it's going.
Well,
then
but you said that would bring
It
back
is scheduled there already at the call of the chair of the full task force. But
If
we
we
do
send
need
it
to
back
take
there,
some
then
type
we
of
need to
action
deal with it.
on the matter.
Because it says action, okay.
Yes.
I move to continue the item to the call of the chair.
And I second.
On the motion to continue the matter to the call of the chair, Haynes absent. Washburn.
Aye.
Aye. Chair Eldon.
Aye.
Eldon, aye. This matter is continued to the call of the chair. Chair Washburn, I was wondering if you would like to set a specific time for this item to appear on the full task force agenda.
Could you remind me what's on?
You can. We have the introduction of Ethics Commission, the new executive director of the Ethics Commission, which will be the first item on the agenda. And we have 3 new items for hearing.
From today?
Not from today. These are brand new complaint hearings.
Okay.
And a couple of items from the EOTC.
Okay.
What if we move this to the front?
Yeah, I think we should have this to the front, have this,
Right after the introductions from Executive Director of Film.
right. So this will be at the top of the agenda.
So,
4:30?
yes. Approximately 4:30, but I would arrive at 4 as a precaution.
Okay.
Is there,
I'm in touch with them all the time.
is there anything else that needs to be done to make sure we're prepared in terms of getting
I think
feedback?
we should ask Jerry for
Okay.
that kind of opinion.
And you're going to
include that in the packet, include this, whatever other material, the Grossman memo, whatever else.
Who will be asking Jerry?
Can you?
I
forward
believe
that request?
contact has already been made with Mr. Treat, but we will provide, I'll try to provide additional instructions. Or
Right, we want him to advise the task force on the parameters for the task force taking action on this.
Yes, I do.
I mean, and separately, if he's got substantive thoughts on the text, that would be a separate
Oh,
request.
yeah, we've
But-
already communicated
Okay.
about that.
But
yeah.
the what we can and can't do legally
Right.
is sort of important.
Right,
And that could, if he can get that out before the meeting, that would be nice too. So.
right.
And I think he's away for a week or something.
Great.
Are we good?
Okay.
Next item on the agenda is item number 9, adoption of the December 15, 2015 Compliance Amendments Committee meeting minutes.
I so move. I have some typos.
Yes.
I have
Teeny-
edits too.
Teeny things.
Is there any public comment on the motion to approve the meeting minutes? This is on the meeting minutes only.
I think we spelled your name right.
Yeah, my name is Stella Johnson. I approve the amendments.
On that motion, Haynes absent. Member Washburn?
Aye.
Washburn, aye. Chair Eldon?
Aye.
Eldon, aye. The motion passes. Next on the agenda, item number 10, amendments, comments, questions, future agenda items, and pending calendar. Listed on here, if you're unfamiliar, are the items pending before this committee. I would like to ask if there's anything you would like to schedule for the next agenda. I know you're not familiar with the majority of them. The first item, 14101, was heard by this committee, and we have temporarily postponed hearing it until there's a computer program to track trees is a brief summary of it. However, it was still in draft mode and not active at the time of the hearing. And we were waiting until that program became active to bring it back for hearing. I have not heard anything. I do check with them quarterly to see, check on the status. File 15077, you might be familiar with it. It's the other half of the Richard Denton file. I'm not sure if he still wishes to pursue this, but if you wish me to schedule this for the next meeting, I will. And the next one, 15159, you probably are familiar with this one. It's regarding the request to bring the Recreation Parks Department back to explain how they document their policy methods, creation of policy. I will contact Chair Alden to determine if these are going to be on the next agenda or not. Unless there's any other comments.
I would just comment that the Grossman item, I mean, we saw Alan tonight. I know that's been waiting on some DBI system. I think it would be good to schedule it next time and have them explain why that's taking so long and if there's some other workaround if that system isn't going to happen. I mean, that's been kicking around now.
They all seem like good things to have on the agenda.
Denton, we should get an update.
I will work with the chair to.
And the board thing, I'm not sure if I got the final order, but yeah, they should all be here.
Okay.
I will work with the chair on this matter.
Great.
Are there any other comments?
Right.
Item number 11, adjournment. There being no additional business, would the chair like to adjourn the meeting?
I would. I do.